The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Loddies, Firestorm Games, and the donations of you, the listener. We really do appreciate everyone's most generous support. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 262, Rangers of Shadowdeep, with hosts Neil Shuck and Mike Hobbs, and guest Matt Slade. This show was recorded on the 20th of February 2019. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. 'Tis I, the Brummy Dwarf, aka Neil Shuck, and welcome once again to another chat about all things tabletop gaming. As always, I am joined by my partner and co-companion. It is, of course, the Welsh wizard himself. It is Mr. Michael Hobbs. Hello, sir.
Hello, Neil. Partner?
Oh, yeah, not that sort of partner. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's good to say. You know. I love you as a friend, Neil, but, you know, you snore. Hello.
So do you. Oh, hang on, let's not go there. Let's step away from that one. How do you know these things otherwise? Yeah. Let's step away from that thing. Yes. Good evening. Hey Ben, you all right?
I'm good. All is good and fine.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah.
And for our third chair this evening, we have returning to the podcast after his stint not only as a painting guru, but also in his role as mentor. Yes, mentor and therapist, indeed. It is, of course, Glenbrook Games himself. It is, of course, Mr. Matt Slade. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello. Very well, thank you, Neil. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Matt.
Good to speak to you. I haven't spoken to you for absolutely ages.
I know. It was, Sunday. It's amazing. And Mike, my goodness, it's been about 24 hours.
Less
than 24 hours, yeah.
Less than 24 hours, yeah.
So it's good to have Matt on the show. So for this evening's episode, we are back to doing a review. So after a few things chatting about various aspects of gaming on this particular show, our main thrust is to do a review of a relatively new game that's come out. So later in the show, we will be reviewing and chatting about all things Rangers of Shadowdeep. However, before we go there, obviously we have the usual confessions and our hobby chat time. So lots and lots to catch up with.
But before we go there, Neil, I think we have to all stand up and shout huzzah. Because
is that the sound of beating hooves?
It is the sound of beating hooves. He's only gone and done it.
Indeed. Yes.
How many Normans?
What, cavalry?
Yeah.
32.
32 cavalry. All on brown horses?
No, not all on brown horses.
Multicolour horses.
Multicolour horses. Yes, we have.
Yes.
We have some that were even black.
Black and brown, everybody.
Black and brown and chestnut.
Yeah.
Yes.
Slightly different colour brown.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So where are we? Oh, yes. So 10 weeks, or maybe it was 9 weeks after Matt forced me into, or shamed me, one or the other, into starting them while we were going through our painting therapy session. They are complete. Although I think on Sunday you did actually blame me for the outbreak of equine flu.
Yeah, I thought the sudden impact of all those new Norman horses obviously caused disruption to the racing calendar.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You just can't introduce 32 horses into the country like that.
None of that French DNA.
No.
So when did you undercut them, Neil? That's the question we all want to know.
When did I undercut them? Well,
yeah.
I did actually admit when I did put a blog post up saying that this is when I'd done them, and linking to the post that I said I'd undercoated them, which was I believe something like, well, it was 2016-ish. Hang on, I'd have to. Here we go.
I think
it's the sound of man looking up something on the internet. Give me 1 second. I will just confirm for you because obviously we didn't rehearse this question at all.
No. Let's just say 2016, because I think it's always a good idea to let your undercoats really dry.
Well, it was the first time. You see, it's an experiment. It was the first time I'd used Vallejo black undercoat.
Oh yeah, you want to give that a good 2 years to dry.
That was it. This was okay. Yeah. I started building them. Building them in August 2016, and
I can't say anything. I have got figures I've undercoated 5-6 years ago, sat on my shelf looking at me. I've got Excelis figures sat on my shelf, Neil, and undercoated.
I've got assembled Excelis figures that are still in the box. I've got unassembled Excelis figures. Oh, quelle surprise! Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
But well done them.
Well, I must admit it has done my painting mojo. Oh, topical. It has done my painting mojo no end of good. So I have moved on already, and I'm well. I mean, jumping on a bit. But I've already started doing other stuff. Although, as I was saying to Matt, the problem with having done these is that I now look back at the Norman Knights I painted for my Saga Force in 2015. Funnily enough, I now look back at them and go, I'm going to have to redo the horses, and I'm going to have to repaint the shields, because the shields look rubbish. And the horses, I kind of painted the horses, but I hadn't done, I hadn't done what I would do now, and I certainly hadn't done all the socks and face markings and that sort of stuff. And of course, if I do them now, I'd be painting the bays differently and what have you. So I think I need to go back and revisit them and just tidy them up, just to kind of put them in keeping. I mean, there's only a dozen of them. They'll be fine.
No. Never go back. Always move on. Use it as a training exercise.
Yeah, but if I'm using them in the same army now, they'll look crap next to the new ones. I mean, admittedly, the new,
Just say the mercenaries. Just base them the same. You're fine.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. I think once they're done,
they're done.
You can go back and do stuff to them, or you could be painting something new. So and if you're playing a game that's big enough to field that many figures, you probably won't notice the difference anyway.
No, that's right.
Well, yeah, unit to unit.
Well, I would notice it because the thing is that all these new ones have round shields as opposed to kite shields, and people have already pointed out the fact that, excuse me, but why have you done all these with round shields? They're Normans. Why don't you use kite shields? So I had to start going into why I was using round shields. Yeah.
Why are you using round shields?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, that hadn't actually occurred to me when.
It was because so. When I originally thought about and designed the army, there was two thoughts. Okay, so these were meant to be Breton warrior units, as opposed to knights.
Yeah.
So, but because they were still mounted, and also that they could also double up as mounted warrior in a standard Norman army. So, but I wanted to be able to differentiate between knights and warriors.
Oh, okay.
So, hence, knights have kite shields, warriors have round shields.
Sounds perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, however, how historically correct it is, I suspect we actually have no idea.
Yeah, so we haven't got a lot to go on.
No, I mean, let's face it. If you're only basing it on the fact, if you're only basing it on a certain tapestry, that's not exactly it's not exactly the most, what should we say, a particular widespread piece of evidence. So I'm assuming that, a shield's a shield, and especially, having chatted to a couple of reenactors, they basically turned around and said, well, the vast majority of shields were basically good for the first clash of the Shield War, and then at that point you kind of threw them away because they were broken.
Yeah.
So there we go. Really? Controversial statements, and I'm open to be contradicted, but there we go. So so anyway, but by the by, yes, the Norman cavalry is complete. Move along.
Yay!
Other things beckon. Thank goodness for that. And I'm not painting me Norman infantry for a bit, because I do need to paint some infantry.
My God, you're actually listening to reason.
I've decided that I have decided that I don't have that many to paint, but I'll give myself a break from chainmail, and I'm moving on doing actually stuff I haven't painted much before, all fantasy stuff. Anyway, more of which in a bit. But so I'm giving myself a break from Normans, but I'll probably come back and do the odd. I'll probably come back and do the odd unit or so, the odd unit at a time, just to kind of keep things fresh and keep things interesting. Anyway, so there we are. Yes, the Normans are dead. So Matt, thank you. You're
most welcome. No, I really enjoyed you guys coming down.
Oh, it was a great day. It was weekend. It was a fabulous weekend. We really enjoyed it, and unfortunately, there is a confession to be made that Mr. Hickman's Vikings have not seen the same amount of progress. Sad to say. I mean, his only excuse is that he has been distracted, much in the same way as somebody got distracted by Baldur's Gate earlier. Yes, Mr. Hickman has been distracted by getting back into Outtro.
Well, as long as he's happy.
This is it. So unfortunately, he is listening to reason. And probably even as we speak, he's in the middle of reorganising his games room to put new shelving up, and as part of that, he will be creating a workspace to have a permanently set up painting table.
It's a way ahead.
So there we go.
All the cool kids are doing.
Yeah. So there we go. And we need to talk. We need to talk about that in a bit, don't we? Yes, because somebody else has been doing extra bits. But yes, we need to move on. So massively enjoyed our painting therapy session, Matt, and it's set me back on the right road. I feel reinvigorated.
Excellent.
Cool. Okay. Well, what we'll do, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, oh dear, confessional time.
Oh, bugger.
The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is very proud to be sponsored by the multi-award-winning Two Fat Lardies. In the recent Wargames Illustrated Awards, they were recognised no less than 3 times. Best Game of 2018, Chain of Command. Best New Game of 2018, Water Tanker. And were also recognised for their level of customer service. This award means that Chain of Command has actually won Best Game for 2 years running. And to celebrate this, Two Fat Lardies are running an award-winning sale on their website, with copies of the rules for Chain of Command, Sharp Practice, Water Tanker and Dux Britanniarum all reduced. So, if you have just the rules themselves, or perhaps a bundle including campaign books or scenario expansions, check out the Two Fat Lardies website at twofatlardies.co.uk. And whilst you're there, why not pick up a copy of the Lard 2018 magazine? A publication packed with scenarios, campaigns, articles, interviews, and reports. And then don't forget to check out Lard Island News, where Rich has posted a series of articles about creating your own jungle terrain. Award-winning rules, inspiring blog posts, and great spare time reading. You can find it all on the Two Fat Lardies website, twofatlardies.co.uk. Play the period, not the rules. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here, hidden from the sight of the great Guru himself, so we can celebrate what we've been buying these last few weeks, since we last spoke. Oh, wondrous time. So, having spectacularly popped his cherry for 2019 on the purchasing front last show, the question has to be asked. Mr. Hobbs, have you progressed in the manner that you have suddenly become accustomed to, or have you yet again managed to restrain yourself?
Well, bit of both, really. Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. I've had a couple of Kickstarters turn up.
Ooh.
In fact, probably the same as you, Neil. With the Heroes of Normandy tactical card game.
Mm-hmm.
It's finally arrived. It seems to be the season for late Kickstarters.
Indeed.
Yeah. So that's arrived and has been looked at, and I think you played it, haven't you? So we can have a chat about that later. But that's arrived, which is good. And today, Conan, as the Conan crossover stuff from the Defius has turned up at last.
Oh my word! Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it looks very nice. Looks lovely. So that's arrived. For research purposes, after being told on the last podcast that I need to purchase this game, I bought Zombicide Black Plague.
Oh, you did buy Zombicide Black Plague? Oh, okay.
Yeah, about 5 minutes after the finish the show. So yeah, that's arrived and has been played as well.
I was going to say, I understand that's been played, so we'll find out a bit more. We'll find out a bit more of that and just how much crap I've been talking in the next segment.
Spoiler alert. Locked. I also picked up some figures from Annie at Bad Squiddo. I got her Amazons. She's just come out with an Amazon Chieftain and 2 Amazons, which are gorgeous. So I've got them, and I think I'm going to use them for Mortal Gods.
All right, cool. Yeah, they'd also fit in well with. Isn't Ghost Archipelago kind of going that sort of direction as well? Isn't it meant to be a box set of Amazons coming out or something?
God knows. I don't play that. That's. But no, I just saw them. Looked at the figures. They're fantastic. I think they're Shane Hoyle sculpts, I think, possibly, or someone like that. But they're nice, really nice figures. So I got those. Right on brand, Rangers of Shadow Deep, the hard copy has turned up from the print on demand service, and very nicely these two. Well worth picking up.
Oh, right, okay. So yeah, because I mean, some people have had mixed experiences with print on demand. So this one's pretty decent, is it?
Yeah, really good. No problems at all. 200 page, nicely bound, 1,400 pieces, nice paper.
What's the postage like on that?
It wasn't that bad, I don't think. Couple of quid.
Oh, well, okay.
It's fairly reasonable.
And that's from Drive-Thru RPG, yeah?
Arrived in about a week and a half.
Oh, cool.
So was that. And I bought some stuff for my desk because I've had a sort out on my desk. So I bought some paint racks and I bought some little shelves to put stuff in. So that was about it really. Lots of things done, lots of things bought, lots of things have arrived.
Cool. Excellent stuff. Right, Mr. Slade. What have you been up to recently? What have you purchased recently?
Well, I like to think I've been quite good since Christmas, but then these things are all relative, aren't they? I was up at the Robin show, as you know, on Sunday, and virtually directly opposite where our stand was Sarissa, and I do have a soft spot for Sarissa buildings. And on the end of the stand that was facing me there was a lot of assembled buildings, but they weren't painted as most of their display ones are. And I thought, it looks a bit different. And I saw some people picking them up, and I thought, they're going to be told, no, they're just display ones. Anyway, it turns out they were sort of test cuts. So you could buy those ready assembled, and it was just a case of watching what was coming out of the boxes all day and trying to resist going over there every 5 minutes to pick up something else. But I did pick up a few bits. I got a really nice chapel, all sort of 28mm, a couple of 3-story sort of city block buildings, a ruined mansion. I've absolutely no idea what I'm going to do with that, but it just looks so cool. I thought I'd better get that. And and a large sort of I don't know which part of the range it comes from. I'd imagine it's sort of Far Eastern. It's like a big sort of verandahed bungalow type building with a very sort of flat roof. It's the sort of thing that you could see in sort of India, Malaya, with, of course, Rich Clark doing a lot of stuff around Malaya for Chain of Command.
Yeah, I think it's like a village meeting house sort of thing, isn't it? Yeah, I know what you mean.
The roof is tiled, but I must admit, I was looking at it thinking with a thatched roof, it would look great as a sort of African sort of trading post as well. As you can tell, I'm very good at coming up with excuses to buy things. But they were all, they all came ready assembled, and they were about half the normal price as well. So I was really, really chuffed with that. Other than that, I just picked up some Sabo bases from Martin at War Bases. I'm doing the To the Strongest competition this coming weekend, and the units that I've got are made up of 40mm bases. So I thought, well, just to speed things up a bit, I'd get some Sabos for those to sit in. So that's about it. Apart from pause for dramatic effect, I don't think it counts as buying it within the last few weeks because I paid for it quite a while ago. But Quinton Dalton of Stand 2 Games, he was having a bit of a clear out. So I've ended up buying a painted, and the irony is not lost here as a full-time figure painter, but I've bought a painted army off him, which I collected. I know. And it's quite a large successor army. I've always fancied a big pike type army, and this one comes, it's about 100 pikemen, which I can break down into quite a few sort of To the Strongest units, and there's a lot of cavalry and light infantry with it as well, which will do for a lot of other armies as well. So yes, I did rather disgrace myself by buying an entire painted army, but it seemed too good an opportunity to miss. So yes, I collected that at the weekend. So that's really blown my 2019 cherry, as it were. But apart from that, I've been quite good.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Yeah.
Cool.
How about you, Mr. Shuck?
Well, I've had. I'm trying to remember if the other Kickstarter I'd had turned up last time round, because I've actually had 3 Kickstarters arrive since we spoke. Yes, I've had the 2 aforementioned Kickstarters that Mr. Hobbs has mentioned. So Heroes of Normie card game and the Conan RPG board game tie-in book. I've also had my Oathsworn Miniatures Kickstarter, their latest Kickstarter, turn up game. Almost ahead of schedule. They say deliver February, and it was kind of like, it's in the first week of February. So that was 15 more miniatures for Burrows and Badgers.
Is that the one with some of the larger models in? Yeah.
Yes, that's the one.
Lovely.
Yes. Quite interesting, actually. More of that shortly. I'll mention now. Quite interesting, because, they said that their new Badger Mage and Beaver were being cast in resin. As it turns out, they're now casting all their big figures in resin. We'll find out how I discovered that come the end of the show. So previously their Badgers and they've got this huge Raven Mage have been big lumps of metal, but now they're being cast in resin. Quite interesting. But yes, so they turned up, very nice too. And then, so I was looking ahead at Rangers of the Shadow Deep and looking towards the second scenario and what I'd need for, second campaign and what I'd need for the second campaign. Thinking, I haven't got any of this or I haven't got any of that. So I ended up buying the plastic box set of Knolls. That were originally released for Frostgrave, and a couple of packs of characters to represent the kind of sergeants and the mage. Caught up on the couple of releases from Legion, Star Wars Legion, because the support personnel packs have been released, so I picked up those while I was at it, and then. Robincon happened at the weekend. So, and one of the great things about Robincon is that it doesn't, that it is one of the shows that Outtro Miniatures go to. So I thought it would be rude that, not to go and see Michael and Joe. And while I was at it, I've been going through kind of warbands and my thoughts on different warbands I wanted to build. And then looked at, actually, I'm still missing some figures. So I bought another 14 miniatures, I think, from them.
14? Nice.
Yeah, so it now means I've got 70 of their range.
And see, the thing is, I love about these small skirmish games because you need about a dozen figures, if that.
Well, actually, the average warband in Burrows and Badgers. Well, yeah, I mean, actually, it's somewhere. It's no more than 6 figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never done that.
No,
me neither.
No.
So yeah, I do have yes, because obviously big plans. I mean, and then I had to restrain myself actually because having turned around and I was saying that the one thing I wasn't going to collect, or the one thing, there's 2 things I don't appeal to me about the range. One is they have some like what they call the foreigners, the foreign creatures. They have things like there's a platypus and there's a fennec fox and a raccoon and stuff. And it's kind of people that have come into Northumbria from foreign shores, and I must admit I don't have a lot of interest in those. And the other thing I was thinking, not really sure whether I need, are shrews. Okay, and they have several shrews in their range. However, some of the shrews are pirates, and they do have other creatures in their range that are also pirates. So, for example, the latest Kickstarter has an otter pirate captain, and while I was acting as Sherpa for Mr. Hickman, as he was wandering around purchasing left, right, and centre. We happened to pass the Irongate Scenery store, and they do have a rather nice-looking sloop in their collection, amongst other things. So,
Uh-oh.
I can see where this is going.
So, I resisted this time, but I suspect by the time we get to Salute, or well, I mean, there are 3 shows that we've got Hammerhead, Chilcon, and Salute. I suspect by the time we get to Salute, I may have decided to collect another warband and perhaps a boat to go along with it, because Tales of the Riverbank with a difference. Anyway, and finally, the other thing I purchased was, funnily enough, from not from Matt himself, but from the equally lovely Debbie Saddle Goose, who has done, amongst other things, a new range of Greek-themed dice bags, and indeed accompanying dice trays, because they now do these felt dice trays with the prested corners, so that they're flat, and then you can pull them up into. And they had a very nice one that was kind of Spartan themed, with multiple warriors on the front. So I actually bought because that was one. Oh yes, I forgot about that. I've pre-ordered Mortal Gods.
In Shuck news.
Yes, in Shuck news. Yes, I pre-ordered Mortal Gods. Yes. So I thought, might need a dice bag to go along with it. And then I happened to see the matching dice tray, and I thought, well, it would be rude not to. And then we were chatting about other designs, and there are a couple of very nice Cthulhu ones, and we were chatting about the fact that there's one particular Cthulhu design which is designed by Martin. What's his surname?
Whitmore.
Martin Whitmore. It's basically a star beast, kind of like breaking through into the breaking through whatever, breaking through a hole in reality and coming through at you sort of thing. It's like, that would be great on a polo shirt. But because it hasn't currently been done on a polo shirt, I decided it would be rude not to buy another dice tray, because you need one for Mansions and Madness, obviously.
Right, of course you do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Martin, Deb's commissioned Martin to do 3 Cthulhu designs. So there's the Star Beast one. There's another one which is a sort of tentacle Cthulhu Star Beast type thing, where the top of his head is actually a D20.
Oh,
so
yes.
It's basically a sort of D20 monster. And then there's the very cute baby Cthulhu, who sat there in his nappy playing with bricks, which have got various sort of Cthulhu symbols on. But yeah, Martin, that's all original artwork by Martin specifically for Debs. So that's it's the first ones that she's done like that. But yeah, they've proved ever so popular. So she is looking at getting some of the images actually printed onto T-shirts as well.
Oh, I think that'd be brilliant. I mean, put them on, do the old T-shirts and baseball caps.
Yeah. They've got sort of mass appeal, those designs, especially the baby one.
Yes, indeed. So yes. So that was. Oh, and I bought some stuff from Otherworld, because the one thing I was missing, or one of the other things I was missing for Rangers of the Shadow Deep, funny enough, were companion models, and so I ended up buying the hunting dogs and the familiars from
very useful
from Otherworld, because the hunting dogs, because dogs, but as we will come across, one of the other things you can have are hawks or raptors, and since the familiar has both a hawk and an owl in it, as birds of prey,
and pelicans, of course.
Yeah, you can have a pelican.
Yeah, you can have a pelican.
All the cool could use pelicans.
Yeah. Don't use vultures, use a pelican.
Yeah.
It's a long story. It's a long story, and it involves a sea lion.
I shall look forward to that one. Yes, I must admit. You have reminded me that I do need to find a vulture.
Pelican.
I believe probably one of the easiest ones to get hold of. There's one in there's one of the Dracula's American range, isn't it? They do I think they do a pack of vultures.
Yeah. I have actually got some vultures, but they're fixed to my camps to the strongest, and I got those from Colonel Stuart or Colonel Bill. I can't remember the name of the range, but they do. There's various sort of blister packs with animals in.
Oh,
and
really?
One of those has got some really nice vultures.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
some of them are sort of flying, and some of them are just sort of perched.
Yeah.
Colonel Bill's. Oh, sure. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I have to look at that.
Yeah, if you go,
Because obviously they'll be a hammerhead, won't they?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, they're really nice. Yeah, so I've got some perched on tents on my camps. Yeah. Well, as I say, you can always use a pelican though.
Yeah, pelican's much better.
Right. Okay. So, is that about it for our confessional?
I did remember one other thing.
Oh, go on then.
Because I did buy Zombicide Black Plague, and obviously getting it all ready, I decided to buy myself an organizer for it. So that's winging its way to me even as we speak. Never thought the MDF that I need to put together. But it sorts everything out and stores it all.
Oh, marvellous. Cool. Excellent stuff.
Yes. I'm like a proper board gamer now. I'm buying organizers for games.
It's a very slippery slope.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so that is our that is what we're buying. Yes, Temptations. Anything on your horizons at all? Anything that you've seen that you're kind of going, ooh, that looks interesting?
Yeah. I had a mail off someone.
Oh dear.
Asking if I'd be interested in the Zombicide Green Horde Kickstarter that they've got sat in boxes unopened. So I held off until I played Black Plague. So this is apparently it's a Zombicide Green Horde and all of the Kickstarter exclusives in another box, which includes a dragon and two giants.
Oh right, okay. So,
Yeah.
so having decided, was it last night you played?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, less than 24 hours later, you pulled the trigger, have you?
No. It's still a temptation.
Oh, okay. Okay, taking bets on whether you on whether that email wends its way before the end of the show.
Yeah. Let's find out. Yeah, it was a very good game. Anyway, and also, Ganesha Games have released a new game called Of Armies and Hordes, which is a fantasy math battle game. Which doesn't use... Well, it's using area movement. You split the table into specific areas and you move into those areas.
Ooh.
I haven't picked it up yet. I think, Matt, you mentioned it. You mentioned it, or?
I did, yeah. In fact, I couldn't remember what it was called because I was going to talk about it in my Temptations bit. So I've just brought it up. Yeah, I've just brought it up on the screen. Yeah, fabulous segue or whatever they call it. But yeah, I rather like the look of it. I was going to talk about it as one of my Temptations. I mean, I have ordered the PDF already, and I think there's a hard copy out towards the end of the month. But I'm a big fan of the Ganesha Games systems anyway, and I think I saw it being play tested. I think there was someone on Facebook that I'm friends with who was involved in some of the play testing. The games look really good.
So, what do you know about it? So, I've heard it's based on the standard sort of rules he uses, doesn't it?
It seems to be, yeah. There's the usual sort of, you can sort of attempt to do up to 3 activation dice, and the more successes you get, the more stuff you can do. I think there's some of the elements from the advanced Song of Blazing Heroes. So if you fail any, your opponent gets to sort of use those, or attempt to use those against you. So if you go for 3 successes and you only pass on 2, that your opponent gets to try to use that missed one, which is quite a neat system that Andrea brought into some of the later rules based on the old Song of Blazing Heroes engine. But no, I don't. I must admit, I don't know a huge amount about it. But as I say, having now played sort of grid type games, I'm very comfortable with the idea of sort of area, the idea of the sort of area of terrain and area movement and that sort of thing. I know that it's going to be a case of use whatever figures you like. It's not scale specific, and you can use multi-based figures. A unit, when they talk about the sort of units, they can be individual models or stands. So yeah, you can. It's going to be pretty good, I think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because he did do a big game, was 6165. His ATW game was all units, and
yeah, I've played that a lot because I've got some 40mm ACW, and I bought those on the back of 6165. But that, effectively what that did, instead of being individual figures rolling 1, 2, or 3 dice, it was like a section of sort of 10 figures. But I think this looks quite different, especially with all the, as you say, with the sort of area-based movement. I mean, I've just brought the description up on the screen. Typical large game requires 2 hours, including setup. Rules are non-scale specific, using any figures in any scale. You can even mix spacing systems. Table size is flexible. As long as you can identify enough areas of the battlefield to provide a good game, you can play on a small kitchen table or on a huge wargaming table. There's no army list in the main file, but they're going to do a spreadsheet. Actually, I think there is a spreadsheet with over 600 ready-made profiles, and you can create your own. So, yeah, a bit like Simon Miller with this To the Strongest stuff, isn't it? Because he keeps all of the lists out of the rulebook so that they can be continually tweaked without having to do a new rulebook.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm quite keen to give that a go. So I've always enjoyed the sort of mass battle fantasy. I've always liked the look of the old Warhammer games that I used to play a lot, and I've sort of been looking for a replacement for that over the last few years. I've still got quite a few fancy bits and bobs. I've got 15mm as well, which would work absolutely fine in this as well by the look of it. So.
Yeah. And I got loads and loads of War Master stuff as well.
Of course, yeah, it'd be perfect.
Well, mine are all based on 80x40s, but I'm sure it'll still work. So
yeah.
Definitely one to keep an eye on.
Ooh, interesting. I've just been trying to avoid Fantasy Flight games because they keep announcing cool stuff for Star Wars Legion, and the War of the Ring game is out. Very soon. Next couple of weeks. Next week or so. What? Yeah. I just is that news today? I was on Firestorm Games new releases earlier. You're joking? No, I was just having a look, and Firestorm has started doing Airfix. Anyway, sorry, but they had it in there. I'm assuming it's up for that. It's up for pre-order, yeah. Yeah, for pre-order. Yeah, I think it said something about coming out the next week. No, it hasn't been because normally Fantasy Flight Games do a whole series of previews before they actually release something, and after having done the original announcement, they haven't done any previews or anything yet. So I thought it was coming out in the second quarter. I shall have to have a look. Okay. News of sound of man looking up something on the internet because I need to. Because all of a sudden I'm kind of going, ooh. Quick, Matt, Phil, because obviously, this is Journeys in Middle Earth, isn't it? This is Journeys in Middle Earth. Yeah. Okay. According to this on their website, it's due for release. But if it's up for pre-order, then I will be forced. Second quarter 2019. They are okay, but if it's up for pre-order at Firestorm, then I might be forced, kicking and screaming, towards pre-ordering it from Firestorm.
Yeah,
just to make sure that we get a copy.
Indeed, research purposes only.
Indeed. Cool, excellent stuff.
So back to you, Matt.
Yes, I don't need to fill now. My other one. I mean, it's not for anything. It's not for a new game or anything. It's a Chain of Command based one. But myself and one of the other guys at the Forest Club, we've both been working on early Germans from the 1940 supplement. So we're short of an opponent. And Ralph's hello, Ralph. Ralph's got some French on the go. But I had a game with the other German player, Martin, on Monday. Not German against German, just a late war game. And we were talking about the possibility of trying a bit of a big chain of command, which he's not really played yet, but doing it for the early war. So I'm sort of thinking about which army to do next to go up against the Germans. Well, I'm horribly torn because the 1940 Blitzkrieg book has got so many lists in it that the temptations are endless, to be honest.
Yeah.
And when there's talk of bicycle troops and motorcycle troops and lots of weird little sort of portee anti-tank guns and stuff like that. I don't know. I think I might go Belgium.
Belgium's the way to go.
Yeah, to start with, anyway.
Yeah.
But then I was looking at the Dutch list. Oh, that's a bit different, you know.
Talking of motorcycle troops, who was it again? They were next door to Quinton's. Next door to Jeff's store on Robincon, and they were doing a whole bunch of, was it Italian motorcycle troops? You remember who?
Don't know.
Was it Dog Tag? I think it was Dog Tag miniatures.
They were around there somewhere, yeah.
I think it was Dog Tag miniatures, and they're doing releases. They're doing a whole load of Italian motorcycle troops. Something nice and interesting and slightly obscure.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. Go 20 mil though, Matt. Come on.
Sorry? 20 mil?
20 mil. It's way ahead.
Yeah. I know that. I don't know how I got myself into 28 mil World War II. I don't really know how that happened because I've always done 20 mil. I used to play a lot of rapid fire a long time ago. And loads. Well, I've still got lots of 20 mil stuff. And now I've duplicated half of it with blooming 28 mil in classic lunatic style.
In classic wargamer style, yes.
Yeah.
Wargaming one scale where you can game exactly the same theatre in 3 different scales.
Yeah, I can't see anything wrong with that at all.
Yes, it is Dog Tag miniatures. Neil,
it is Dog Tag.
Found them. Yeah, they're rather nice, aren't they?
Yeah, they're looking all right.
Italian dispatch rider. There's a motorcycle and sidecar. There's a 5-man squad, which is a bike and a bike with a sidecar. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, they've got some quite unusual. It has some quite unusual stuff on this.
Yeah. Hungarian Kickstarter.
Yes, they're doing Hungarians.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really nice bike with two Italians, both sort of perched on it shooting. This is really cool. Well, there's another temptation then that I didn't even know existed before this evening. So.
There you go. Yeah, we go. So, any other temptations for any of us? I mean, it's been a few minutes, so we've probably found something new.
Yeah, I'm going to stop looking at the internet.
Yeah.
I was only trying to be helpful.
I don't know when they're due for release, but you may have heard that Empress are expanding their Vietnam range. Because they did the Indochina.
Yeah.
They are expanding their Vietnam range, still sculpted by Paul Hicks, and they're going to do Hawaii City. So it's the 1968 U.S. Marine assault on Hawaii. So it's going to be 28 mil Vietnam, sculpted by Paul Hicks.
Whoa.
Yeah, quite.
In Stalingrad as well.
Yes, in the Vietnam version of Stalingrad. Yeah, that really does appeal. Oh my word!
Yeah, of course, that suddenly reminded me, talking about Vietnam, there's the Pulp Figures Black Sun stuff. Sort of, I think it's a sort of a pulpy Vietnam type game. So you've got US Army, VC, and frogs with AK-47.
Mm-hmm.
That's officially what they're called.
Frogs with AK. You know.
Fishmen, they're called.
Fishmen.
Fishmen, MIHN. Brilliant.
Cthulhu, Vietnam.
Oh no.
Oh, that would work. That really would work.
Oh no, thanks,
Yeah,
Matt. I wasn't aware of that one. Oh.
Yeah, that's Bob Murch's stuff. I'm a massive fan of his figures, because I think you can get Pulp figures through North Star now, I think. But I had loads of them when you could still only get them from, I think he's in Canada. And they're absolutely superb. Real sort of big, bold sculpts, ideal for sort of pulp gaming. And of course I mentioned the word pulp, which immediately reminds me that, I don't think you've mentioned it on the show before. You know, Carl at Crooked Dice, they've got a pulp version of 7TV coming out.
Yes, this is the one. Carl did actually mention this in passing when we interviewed him on the show last year. Yeah, because it's the one they've been working in conjunction with that degree course, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, it's some sort of writing course, isn't it?
Yeah. Basically, they partnered with the university. They've been doing a degree in game design, and as a result, they're releasing Pulp 7TV at the UK Games Expo.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that will definitely be on my shopping list.
Yes. Yes, and of course the I completely forgot to go over to see Carl on Sunday because I would have had an accident with their with their new Alien Visitors range. That is rather nice. Yes, for people of a certain age who remember a particular TV series, but there we go. Yes. That about it then?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, cool. Okay, great. Well, in that case then, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be chatting about everything we've been up to in the hobby. Hi everyone, Neil here. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you are, I'm wondering, would you consider becoming a patron of the show? For as little as $1 a month, you can help support us in what we're doing with the show. For that, you can get access to a monthly question and answer show, and that will also allow you to ask questions. If you pledge more, you potentially get bonus podcasts. And you never know, you might even get invited to be on the show yourself. If you want to know more details, please follow the link to our Patreon page, which is on the front of the website. That's www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. Thanks a lot. We bought stuff, so now it's time to find out what we've been playing. So, as previously advertised, the first thing that we have to do is for Mr. Hobbs to turn around to me and tell me that I'm an idiot.
Okay.
And I don't know what I'm talking about.
You do know what you're talking about. But it's just simply you're an idiot. Now, why have I called you an idiot now?
For a particular game that you bought and played.
Oh God, yeah. Sorry, I thought it was just generic. So yes, well, we played Black Plague last night. Me and Matt and Mark played the opening little baby scenario for characters.
I'd be interested to know what both of your thoughts are on it.
Oh, do you want to go first, Matt?
Yes, I'd love to. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've got the original Zombicide on a shelf somewhere, and I've played it a couple of times. And I don't know why it didn't particularly grab me enormously. And the figures are nice, and the presentation's nice, but it didn't seem to have I don't know, it didn't seem to have quite enough to it to keep me playing that as opposed to drifting off and playing other things as usual. But I found, I don't know what it was about this one. It may even purely be the setting, because it's sort of medieval and you're sort of bashing through these rooms and vaults and such like. I mean, it's essentially the same game as the original Zombicide. But I seem to enjoy it more for some reason. And as I say, it's such a long time since I played the first one that I can't really directly compare and contrast them. So maybe there are some little tweaks, but there's some magic, some sort of magic things that we found, and interesting weaponry, which again are probably the exact equivalent. I expect the repeating crossbow is probably the equivalent of some sort of assault rifle, but I just really, really enjoyed it. So it's hard to sort of compare them directly. I almost feel like getting the original one back out of the box now and trying to work out why it didn't quite grab me. But now I'm really keen to have a go at one of the more advanced scenarios next week, which is the plan at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sort of thinking, because I played it ages ago. I think it was just after Zombicide came out. One of my mates did the Kickstarter and we played it, and I just felt it was a bit, sort of Walking Dead styley.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of them around at the time, and I'd played. There's a free set. I'm sure you can still find it on the internet somewhere. It's probably on free War Games rules now, but it was called something like I think it was Dead Walk Again, and it's a really, really stripped down, quite basic tabletop zombie game. And you can play most of the scenarios can be played on like a 3x2, and I loved that, absolutely loved it, and that I think that was enough for me from a sort of a Walking Dead type modern zombie type game. So when Zombicide came, I don't think it had anything to add to that. But yeah, I think it may purely be the setting. I just like the imagery, and it's just a bit different than running down streets and trying to get cars started and that sort of thing, which is pretty much that pretty much features in every sort of modern zombie game that I've played.
Yeah, it was it was nice and claustrophobic, and and it sort of built, because we started out quite easy, kill a few zombies, search a few things, find lots of crossbows.
Yeah,
because we hadn't shuffled the card deck properly.
Yeah, they only fell on the floor once.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to drop on the floor twice to get a proper shuffle.
Yeah, proper shuffle on it. But yeah, and it just ended up with the three of us sort of going. We were in this position where one of the guys was up front, about to get swamped with zombies. We were really close to getting out. It was just like, how do we get out of this? And it was just fun. Yeah, and it just worked. So, yeah, I really enjoyed playing it.
Cool.
It's so nicely done. I mean, the way that the player decks are put together. You get this sort of plastic player deck where your character stats sits in the middle, and you've got spaces for cards on either side for what's in your arms, and little slots to put what's in your backpack at the back. Just
like I say, it's production values are great. The miniatures are nice, and the board, it's nice artwork and all that sort of thing. So you can't fault that sort of thing, can you?
No, absolutely. Yeah, the miniature's gorgeous, and I've painted some for one of my American customers, and they paint up beautifully, really nice. They're quite crisp for that sort of plastic figure. Yeah, very nice. And the board pieces they're gorgeous. The artwork on those is lovely. Because one of the rooms where we had to go down into the vault was actually the dunny, wasn't it? Which
It was.
I hadn't realised until we were actually in it. But, yeah, beautiful, really nice.
Yeah, so a good game. And we spent about an hour, and it was only 2 boards. We literally had to run through a house, smash, go into a vault, find some extra items in the vault, get back out, and then run around the corner and we're out. But we just ended up being chased down, and it really worked well. So I'm really pleased I bought it. I'm really pleased we enjoyed it. And
No, I am pleased that you did. I mean, the worst thing would be to kind of go, to me to sit here going, "Oh, I told you so," But yeah, I mean, but obviously sometimes it is a case of we are different, and sometimes games grab. I mean, again, funny enough, I was chatting with Mr. Peake, who I last played this game with. Hey, Colin. On Sunday, and this subject came up, funnily enough, because he was having a go at me about it.
Well done, Colin.
So what do you like zombies? So what do you like Black Plague then? It's like I don't know. It just might have been, it just I don't know. It just might have been. I might have just been in one of those moods. So I'll have to play it again and give it a second opinion.
Well, I could bring it on Saturday.
Oh yes, to add to the other 28 games that we're playing on Saturday. Yeah.
Just do it on Tuesday.
Is that like a Hobbs? Is that like my Tuesdays? That's a Hobbs on Saturday. Yeah.
Yes. So we played that. I've also played Rangers twice since we last met.
Cool.
Again with Matt and Ralph and Mark, and I just had fantastic fun with that. It's just so much fun. Ralph's getting into it. Dogs seem to get killed every time. So dogs get injured, and then they go to little farms. Poor Fifi.
Poor Fifi.
Yeah. Just Ralph trying to jump over a gorge. Well, it wasn't a gorge. It was a little gap in some rocks. Yeah, trying to be cool. Trying to be Legolas, as he was. And his dog fell behind him. But, yeah, great fun. Really good game.
Yes, more of which, surely.
So that's what I've been playing. Because I don't have much of a life now. I've been painting some stuff. I've painted up some fantasy stuff. Simply because we've been playing Rangers, and I've dusted off some of my Otherworld figures that I've had sat on the shelf. So I picked some of those up.
So what have you been painting then?
Oh, it was just a couple of character figures I've had sat on the shelf.
Yeah.
There's, funny enough, a Ranger figure. And I painted up that flesh column, which we haven't used yet, because I've been sat in a box for a few years. So that's that done. I painted up a pig-faced orc because we were going to use the pig-faced orcs instead of gnolls, but then Matt had half an hour and painted up the 25 that we needed.
To be fair, it was 3 hours.
Oh,
yeah.
It doesn't sound any better.
No.
20.3 hours.
Well, I was tweeting pictures of the sort of progress. And,
of course, that was between like 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., wasn't it, or something stupid?
Oh, it was actually a 4-hour time slot because Ralph commented, "Hang on, that's only taking you 4 hours, but I'd taken an hour out to watch an episode of The Walking Dead, so it was only 3 hours." But
oh, that just reminds me. Yeah, I bought a box of gnolls as well after seeing the ones you painted, Matt.
Oh, you bought some?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're splendid fun.
Yeah,
they're nice, aren't they?
So I did though. So I've also been basing up some of my old Conan stuff, which had been painted, but I hadn't based, so I've done those.
I wonder who painted those for you.
Yeah, that was Gareth. Good old Mr. ADC painting.
Ah,
that's my Conan Undead.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done some Bag the Hun Sunderlands.
Oh yes, they look quite nice.
Yeah, they were cool. I did a test of the P29 and assembled a load of flight stands, and then I had a poll to see what bag the hunt force I should do next, and the winner is the attack on the Bismarck.
Mm.
Have you got your swordfish?
I got swordfish. Yeah, they're all in the bag.
Have you got a Bismarck?
I've got a Bismarck. It's in the box somewhere. I've lost the Bismarck.
It's very careless of you.
Yeah, it's been put away safely and securely.
Wasn't the Airfix mod? It wasn't the Airfix Bismarck actually 1/600 scale.
Yeah, much bigger. So this is the Rebel one, which is 1/1200.
Oh, okay. So you're doing the 1/1200 ships with 1/600th planes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure the Airfix one was 1/600 scale. I mean, admittedly, it's not a waterline model, so you'd have to kind of amend it a bit. But
Yeah, I've gone for the Rebel one, which I bought in Traeger Mills around the corner for £6.
Oh, superb!
And then they've obviously lost. So if I can't find it, I'll be going back to Traeger Mills to buy another one for £6. And then obviously we'll find the first one again. So
Bismarck, the Bismarck didn't have a sister ship, did it?
No, I think it did.
I seem to remember it didn't, but somebody might correct me. Please do. I'd be happy to be wrong on that. And of course, if Mr. Hobbs happens to buy two and then discovers that, so if it then discovers that the Bismarck does have a sister ship, at least it means that his second one won't go to waste.
I may have painted one. And then I had a good sort out my painting desk because it was driving me crazy. It was messy, disorganized.
I do like. I mean, having sat in a certain person's painting study.
Yeah, but Matt's a professional. He's allowed to work the way he works.
That was tidy.
Yes,
I had to clear some space for you and Dave to have places to paint.
As we understand, yes, as I understand
it's never
it.
been so tight.
So the comment from yourself about the chaos that was your painting desk, looking at everything neatly in boxes and in rows, obviously organised a little bit like a rainbow.
Yeah.
Where does brown fit into a rainbow?
Brown is just to the right at the top.
Okay. So you've you're the opposite. So you've reorganised the chaos that was your painting desk.
Yes.
Oh my word!
I'm much happy with it now.
Oh my word! OCD working overtime, but there we go.
Yes, indeed. My Villagios are all in racks, which I got from War Bases. They're £7 each. They're very good.
Mm.
So it was Ralph who put me onto those. He had one in his house, and it's just great. So I got two of those. All my Villagios are in there. Got this little chest of drawers I got from some firm, which I can't remember the name of it. So that's sat in the corner of the painting desk. The painting trays on top, and then all the rest of my paints are within arm's reach on the right hand side. It's great.
That close to the edge of the desk, eh?
Yes. I line them up, you hit them in. So my paint desk is lovely. Although I've had to move some paints now, so I can't just do my usual muscle memory of picking up a blue without even looking at it. And I have to sort of look again and work out where the blues are gone, because they'd be moved a couple of inches. But hey-ho. I'll survive. It's okay.
Right. Cool.
That's me.
Excellent stuff. So, Matt, has Mr. Hobbs completely stole your thunder? Is there anything else that you've been playing? Or anything else you've been up to?
Yeah, well, I've been in a bit of a golden age of wargaming at the moment, because I'm gaming at least twice a week at the moment. Because we tend to get together at Mark's in Abergavenny, the obviously world hub of wargaming, on a Tuesday night. So yes, the last few weeks we've been doing Rangers, and then obviously Zombicide last night. But because I was Wednesday night is normally my club night, and so I'd dropped a couple of the guys at the club a line and said, if any of them fancy the game during the week, give me a shout, and I'll squeeze a game of something else in to replace my sort of club night. And then ended up with two of them getting in touch with me on Sunday on the way home from Robin. So I ended up having a game of Chain of Command on Monday afternoon, and then two practice games of To the Strongest in the evening. So, I basically wrote off Monday as a painting day and just basically played games all day, which was nice. The evening games were against Sean, another full-time figure painter who lives near me, Little Ninja painting service, and he, the two of us are going into the Chalgrove competition on Saturday, so we thought we'd try a couple of sort of competition length games, and just doing back to back to try and get an idea of how it would feel when we're actually playing the games on Saturday. So that was good fun. Painting wise, I have squeezed in a few odds and sods for me in among my commission work. So, well, obviously we've spoken about the Knolls. So that's been really good fun, the whole Rangers thing, because as we'll talk about later, the missions sort of give you an idea of the sort of figures that you need. So it gives you a little shopping list of things to either hunt down from your collection or to start looking for, as we were talking about vultures and such like. So yeah, I've finally got around to putting some Knolls together and painting those. And I'd had a box of the Frostgrave ones for such a long time. I think originally I bought them because I was planning to do a sort of a Dragon Rampant army based on sort of real sort of classic D&D type monsters. So kobolds and bugbears and gnolls and things like that. Never really got around to it. So they've been sat on a shelf for a long time. And then things like the spiders and the bugs and rats and things. It's amazing what you can unearth from the darkest corner of your war games room. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of odds and ends for that, including a Ranger. My Ranger's actually a Reaper Bones one, because I did one of the Kickstarters, one of the big Kickstarters at Reaper Bones. I think it was the second one. So up in the loft, I've got a large box full of all sorts of weird and wonderful Reaper Bones figures. So I hauled that out as well. So I found a lot of insects and rats and things in amongst that. Model ones, not real ones. So yeah, that's been really good fun. Yeah, finally getting some use out of these figures that I must have, when they arrived on when the Kickstarter turned up, I thought, well, why on earth did I buy this lot? So yeah, that's been quite nice. And then I've been gradually building up my early war Germans. I've pretty much got the basic platoon done, and I've been adding a few support weapons to that. That's been quite good fun, because again, it's a part of the war which I've not really wargamed very much. And yeah, I when I have done the sort of slightly like early Russia and things like that, it's quite good. I actually prefer it in some ways because it's not dominated by massive tanks. So it's quite nice to look at a period where a boy's anti-tank rifle is going to actually have a chance of doing something interesting. So yeah, really enjoying putting together that force. And as I say, I'm now starting to look towards what I do to provide some opposition for them. But yeah, that's about it really, gaming wise, I think. Yeah, so the Forest Club has been a lot of Chain of Command and To the Strongest. We've got a few guys who've had bolt action armies and haven't really done a lot with them. So I've been gradually corrupting them in the way of lard. So I've run a few sort of introductory sort of patrol scenarios for a few of the guys, and they seem to be really enjoying it. So that's good. But yeah, I think that's about it really. So a lot of crossover with Mike with our Tuesday night stuff. Looks like we're going to be doing Zombicide for a few weeks, and then back to Rangers when Ranger Ralph can join us again.
Excellent stuff. Right, well, managed to get a few games of stuff in. Lots of bits and pieces, as opposed to anything particularly dominating. Taught Luffy how to play Keyforge last week, because he...
Blimey.
Yeah, well, he turned up to. It was just us two for the night, and I was keen to play like To the Strongest or something, and he kind of goes, he says, shame you didn't bring your Magic Duel decks. He says, well, funny you should say that. Says I do happen to have Keyforge with me, and so we played a couple. So I introduced him to Keyforge. He quite likes it actually. So yeah, there we go. Well, shocking indeed, horror. He's not
Keyforge. Before you jump on there, isn't there a new version of Keyforge or new?
There's a new
expansion.
There's an expansion coming out for Keyforge in the next few weeks. Yeah, they announced it's a new set of decks. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, as you'd expect, it's right. Okay, so we've done the first bit of Keyforge. Oh, more cards. More excuses to buy more decks. Yeah. It's typical Fantasy Flight. There we go. But it doesn't mean to say that, the existing decks will be any worse or any better. It's just different, getting new cards, new combinations sort of thing. So it just depends how much you want to buy into it, really. Yeah.
You ordered it, yeah?
No. I've got far too much other stuff to spend money on at the moment. Right, okay, Mr. Luff has been a little bit, has not been around so much, in recent weeks. So we've been reviving the games that we play, on our games nights that do not include Mr. Luff. So we played a couple of games. We've gone back to Imperial Assault, using the Legends of the Alliance app. It was a bit annoying because we discovered, we haven't played it since September last year, I think it was. And we went back and discovered that, they updated the app a couple of times since then because they basically put 2 of the other expansions to produce other campaigns into the app. In doing so, it meant that the 1.3 version of the app, which is what we had, any save games that were in 1.3 got corrupted. So we were almost at the end of our campaign, and you load the game up, and basically you've got nowhere to go, because normally when you go into like the campaign map, you have one or more locations that you can click on to select your next mission, and the campaign map was just empty. I was like, what's going on here? So we then ended up looking on the Fantasy Flight forums and what have you, and then discovered, there was a bug in 1.3 save games, which wasn't apparent until they upgraded the app. At which point, anyway, so we had to start again. So rather than start with the original campaign, we actually started with a campaign based on the Return to Hoth box set. Right. But yeah, great fun that is. No, it's really cool. I do like the app. It's not quite as intuitive as the Mansions of Madness app. I suspect it is very, very similar to the one they use for Descent, because Descent has an app that you can play cooperatively as well now. But yeah, that works really well. So I was playing that. Had another game of Gloomhaven. Played another game of Dice Settlers. I mentioned David got a game of Dice Settlers. We actually played that with Mr. Luff. Much better with 3 players. We played it 2-player and it was all right, but 3-player, yeah, it's basically an in-your-face area control game. It's really clever. Like that a lot. Although it still seems wrong to have a game called Settlers that hasn't got sheep in it, but there we go. And then finally, as mentioned earlier, Heroes of Normandy tactical card game. I actually managed to get it out. Get it, sleeve it, and get it out on the table. In under a week. That must almost be a new record. Played it on Friday evening with Josh. The verdict from Josh: it's a World War II game I actually enjoyed playing.
Well, that's a bonus.
It is a bonus. I thought, oh, good job of that then. 2-player game. I was hoping that he'd enjoy playing it because we might be playing a lot of it. Yeah, really interesting. Quite light. I think it's similar sort of command mechanics to Heroes of Normandy, I believe, or similar sorts of decisions you have to make. Limited number of commands. You're not going to be able to order all your units every turn.
Yeah, it's certainly different to the board game. The board game, you get a number of orders you give to units. You put sort of face down so your opponent can't see them. This one, I think you have a certain number of orders you can give to your commanders, and your commanders can then order troops around them.
Yeah, well, there's two things. There's two. Basically, what you can do, there's 5 different commands you can use. So you can draw more cards, which is effectively recruiting reinforcements and deploying them to the table. You can use you can get more what they call directive markers, which allow you. They're effectively bonus markers. They give you bonuses to hit or to save or what have you. There's a couple of other things, but one of the things you can do is activate a unit, and if you activate a command unit, a HQ unit, that HQ unit can then issue orders to any units that are in command range. And depending on how good the commander is, that range, is variable. So, for example, I was playing the Germans. Strange that. And my commander, you can only order units that are adjacent to you. Whereas Josh was playing US, and the US airborne commander could order any paratroop unit on the table, because he was basically a better commander. But yeah, interesting game. Quite light, but having said that, yeah, there's a lot of decisions to be made, and it is. I mean, we've only played the introductory scenario, which is quite a tight little firefight. You can imagine, and and only lasts over 4 turns, and the game essentially came down to a couple of dice rolls as opposed to whether I could destroy Josh's unit, because the initial scenario essentially is a case of the Americans have to occupy a town, the Germans have to force them out. The Americans get victory points for occupying the town at the end of their turn. The Germans get victory points for destroying American units. And it all basically boiled down to I had to try and destroy his occupying unit on the final turn. If I'd have done that, we'd have got a draw. If I failed, he won. So, nice little scenario. So even the first scenario, really tight. So despite the fact that I had loads more units on the table, because just the way I'd played my reinforcements, it was more units is not a foregone conclusion. I'm quite impressed with it. I'm looking forward to playing. Or especially playing bigger battles. I think it will be because you can. The introductory scenario is on a 5x5 board, but you can play up to 6x8. And I reckon there's going to be. I reckon it will be particularly good. I'm really looking forward to doing more of that.
Yeah. Which pledge did you go for? Did you go for the all-in pledge or just a smaller one?
No, I went all in, mate.
Yeah,
got everything.
Yeah, same as me. So you're looking at sort of you've got the D-Day box, Goodwood box.
It's D-Day, Battle of the Bulge, the French Resistance mini expansion, Operation Goodwood, and also what they call the free fight box. Which is all the Kickstarter freebies. So yeah, loads of stuff. A couple of things there were a couple of little disappointments. I think the card boxes that they produced for the game could be a little bit better.
I haven't looked at those. I haven't actually opened the free fight.
Oh, right, okay. But yeah, I mean, I've done it. I've done open them all, Slade everything. Yeah, I think I tweeted. The other really annoying thing is that the scenarios all the scenarios on sheets. The scenario sheets in the expansion boxes have been cut to the incorrect size, so they fit in the base of the lid of the base game, but because obviously the lid is a few mil either way bigger than the base, in order to get them to fit inside the main base game, you basically have to trim about 4 mil off the edges of the scenarios. It's just really annoying. It's simply someone made a slight mistake on the dimensions of the scenario sheets.
Right.
But it's just those things that are just kind of going, oh. However, don't knock it. We got the game. Considering what was it, 6 months ago, we were thinking we ain't going to get this. We got it. So, and it does seem to be a pretty decent game. Pleased about that.
Excellent.
And then on the modelling front, I'm painting more stuff. I've been punching cardboard like no one's business. So I've punched all the card, all the stuff for the 2D&D. Having painted the Normans, I rewarded myself by doing stuff that wasn't painting Normans. So I punched all the games for the 2D&D games and all my Mansions of Madness stuff. I've also assembled all my Mansions of Madness, but not onto the fugly square bases. I put them all onto round bases, not clear bases. I put them onto plastics because I do actually quite fancy painting the figures. But I thought I wasn't going to trust myself to put them onto clear bases and then assume I'm not going to paint the bases, get paint on the bases. So I've just put them all on round plastics. But I didn't. I decided not to use the square ones that provided with the game because, well, they're horrible. They just look. I mean, I know that I know why they were done because it was functional for version 1 of the game, but they're just awful. So
you took them off a base that you're not going to use to put them onto a temporary base. No. They're
not on a temporary base, and they weren't based. You have to attach them to a base in the first place.
Right, okay, I'm with you now. Sorry. I just feel you cut them off the bases.
No.
Put them onto another base before you put them onto a clear base.
No. I'm not going to base them on clear bases. I've decided. Right. I'm just going to put them on, but I didn't want to put them on the bases that were provided with the game.
With you now. That's
yes. Right. And over the last couple of days, I've been, funny enough, I've been basing and painting giant rats and spiders. Which I'm close to finishing, so hopefully by the end of the week I'll have finished those and onto some of the bits and pieces for a game that we're going to be talking about shortly. Cool.
Sure. Yeah, is that it?
I think so.
So.
Cool. In that case, then we'll take another quick break, and then when we come back, as promised, we will be chatting all about Rangers of Shadow Deep. We interrupt this programme to bring you another news flash as we cross once more to our South Wales reporter, Mike. What is happening at Firestorm Games?
Hello, Neil. I'm speaking quietly because I'm currently in parts foreign. I have left my beloved Wales and journeyed east to the charming town of Swindon.
Swindon? Why are you in Swindon, Mike?
Well, there are two reasons, Neil. Firstly, the anti-left is still running amok in Cardiff. He was last seen heading towards the Doctor Who exhibition. But I really wanted to try and get out and find some shelter, so I came to Swindon. Also, we could celebrate the opening of a brand new Firestorm Games here.
A brand new Firestorm Games, you say? In Swindon? Tell me more.
Well, it's like the other two shops in Cardiff and Newport. The Swindon shop is open 7 days a week and has late-night gaming nights on Thursday and Friday. There are also 16 6x4 tables on site for gamers to use.
Really? And what about the shop?
Well, as you would expect, it stocks all the major brands. And not only that, it can also order stock from other stores if required. So if there's something that you fancy that's on display in the other stores, you can get it sent to Swindon and pick it up there.
That sounds absolutely perfect, Mike. And what with the extra 5% discount that our listeners get using the offer code, I'm sure it's going to be a huge success. Tell me, do they still have wobbly shelves?
I believe the shelves have been strengthened ever since the altercation of the anti-luff in Cardiff, and the usual security procedures have been stepped up. There is razor wire around the store, but I believe that's mainly for the anti-luff.
Excellent. Wait. We interrupt this newsflash for another newsflash. News is reaching us of chaos in Cardiff.
Oh, no.
A large object has been seen escaping the waterfront and has been seen heading east at vast speed.
Uh-oh.
It appears to be heading towards the Severn Bridge.
Uh-oh.
Mike.
Yeah?
Mike.
Neil, I can see a cloud of dust in the distance moving this way.
Get out of there, Mike! Mike! Get out of there before it's too late!
Neil,
I'm very sorry, listener, but we appear to have lost contact once again with our South Wales reporter. We can only hope and pray that everything is okay. However, in the meantime, at least we can console ourselves that if you use the new offer code LOVEMeeple, LOVEMEEPLE, you will be able to get an extra 5% discount on all your goods ordered from Firestorm Games, whether that be from their Cardiff, Newport or new Swindon store. And remember, that offer is also available online at www.firestormgames.co.uk. Firestorm offer free worldwide shipping on orders over £40. Some exclusions may apply. It's time to go into the rules. It's the Meeples and Miniatures in-depth review. We go deep. Really deep.
No, I mean really, really deep.
So indeed, yes, as we said, in this section of the show, we are going to be reviewing a game that was written by Joe McCullough, who most people will know, amongst other things, I think he's probably best known as being the author of Frostgrave, and that is a game called Rangers of Shadowdeep. Now, this is a game that I believe is self-published, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
This one is, yeah.
Yeah, and it was released, was it about October last year, something like that, October, November?
I believe so.
Yes. I mean, funny enough, actually, we will be having Joe on the show in a few weeks' time. We are going to be talking on a subject related to this, but we're not actually going to be, we're going to be talking a little bit about this game, but actually the subject we're going to be talking about is more about design mechanics and stuff. But we are actually having Joe on in a few weeks' time. So I'm sure we can ask him a couple of things. But anyway, so it uses uses similar mechanics to Frostgrave. So some of them, if you know Frostgrave, some of the mechanics will be familiar to you. There have been some tweaks and what have you to it. However, the main difference with this game compared to Frostgrave is that this is specifically designed as a solo and or cooperative game. So, everybody who plays on the side of the good guys, and the nasty baddies are played by the game AI.
Yes. Which
Indeed.
normally means one of us has to roll a dice.
Indeed, yes. So, I mean, it has to. It has to be said from looking at it. The AI isn't particularly complex, and this is obviously, and also, this isn't the first game of its type that we've seen. I mean, back in the day, we would think about things like, remember, 2-hour war games. That was kind of their USP, was the fact that you could play their games cooperatively. But I think this is the first one that's come out for a while from, for want of a better phrase, a mainstream author who is well known for doing other stuff. And of course, solo cooperative gaming, as we've been talking about with the likes of things like, App Run Games and whether it's Zombicide or Gloomhaven or those sort of games, the Dungeon Bash style D&D games that we've been playing. It's certainly something that is proving to be more popular recently. So it's nice to see this reappearing in a more traditional a miniature war game or skirmish game. So we're going to take a full look at the rules, and we have the added advantage that both Mike and Matt have played it at least a couple of times. So let us first of all look at what the game overview is.
Cool. Okay then. So first real question is the sort of basics, What's the level and scale? What size table do we need? How many figures? Whatever stuff. So over to you, Matthew, our expert on Rangers of Shadow Deep. And before
I shouldn't have bought the book first, should I?
That's it. Yeah. You bought the book first. You told us about it. So before we start, you can tell us why you decided to buy it.
Well, a bit of a happy accident, really. I one of the Facebook groups that I administer is a Lost Worlds wargaming group. Not a huge group, but quite a friendly bunch of like-minded souls who like playing tabletop games involving sort of journeys to the centre of the earth, and basically, our Lost Worlds are fairly wide-reaching, so it includes things like Conan and that sort of thing. And someone had posted a game report of a Conan game that he'd done, and he'd played it solo. And he mentioned that because I looked at it, I thought it looks interesting. It's a fun little game. And it sort of finished off his battle report by saying that the rules were this Rangers of Shadow Deep. And I must admit, at that point, I'd not heard of them at all. So I then looked them up and thought, oh, that sounds a bit of fun. And also the fact that someone had taken them and used them for something like Conan also appealed anyway, before I even read the fluff in Shadow Deep. Yeah. So off I trotted. I think I downloaded it as RPG Now, is it? I think that's what it's called. And at the moment, I think you can get the Drive-Through?
Drive-Through RPG, yeah.
Sorry, Drive-Through. That's right. And you could get the PDF and the book version for about $30, which I think you still can at the moment.
Yeah.
So I downloaded it. And then the book turned up very quickly, actually. Only I think it was within the week, I had the book in my mitts. And had a glance through it. Oh, yes, that's good. One of the real, the sort of appeals of it is that it is, it's all scenario driven. So, I think probably, later on, once we've got past the sort of basics of how the game is played, it might be worth if I just sort of talk through the first scenario, because that gives you an idea of how the events work and how the sort of story develops through the scenario. but yeah, essentially you're looking at, I think so far, flicking through all the various scenarios and missions, I think most of them are on a 2.5 foot square or smaller. So when you're out and about in the wilderness, it tends to be about a 2.5 foot square. Once you're in amongst buildings, it tends to be smaller areas. So very compact. Miniature scale, I don't really think matters. You could muck about and reduce sizes if you want, but I don't really see the point if it's only 2.5 foot square. But I think you could use any miniature scale that you like. As for numbers of figures involved, that's sort of dependent on the scenario. Before each mission, you get given a list of the figures, sort of the minimum number of figures that you'll need. They don't give you the exact numbers because they want to leave a little bit of sort of mystery in each scenario. But I mean, I think possibly, I'm not sure, Mike, what you think, whether the last game we did or the first game we did, they're probably the two largest ones.
Yeah. And there was about a dozen enemy.
Yeah, about that, wasn't it? Yeah. Pretty much every scenario there is the chance that more baddies are going to arrive on table. But you will find that you will bump off quite a few baddies, so you can recycle them. The actual the Rangers themselves, that's depending how many players you've got, that determines how many companions you can have. So if you're playing a solo game, you get 100 build points to put together a companion team. So if you're playing it solo, you get to spend that full 100 points, and you can have up to, I think it's 7 companions. Now, we've started playing some games with the sort of maximum 4 Rangers. That does seem to be the maximum number that would work with the current set of scenarios.
Yeah.
But what happens there? You reduce your build points proportionately. So because obviously the Rangers are the toughest characters, you don't get to have as many companions. So generally, you only get 1 companion if there's 4 Rangers, so you get 1 companion each. There are ways of tweaking that slightly, but that, as I say, it helps to maintain the balance in the scenarios. Because if you had Rangers with full retinues against the scenarios as they're written, it would be far too easy for them.
Yeah, I think essentially you're looking at, because it's interesting, like for example, if you're running with 2 figures, each ranger is allowed 3 companions.
Yeah.
So
also a reduced build.
Yeah, but also to reduce build costs. Effectively, the good guys, you're allowed around about 8 models, and they can be. And they vary from anything from wizards to men-at-arms to trackers, thieves, and dogs and birds of prey. So that sort of ilk. But around about 8 figures.
Yeah.
For the good guys. Bad guys. It's really interesting because when they in the game, basically Joe says, look, just because it states that it has to be this sort of figure, it said, please feel free to proxy. However, there is this wonderful comment at the start of the book about miniatures, which says this. It says. Collecting figures is at least as enjoyable as the game itself, and players should use the game as an excuse to get whatever figures they want/require. So there you go. We have in the rules immediately a case of, okay, you can proxy, but it's a good excuse to go out and buy lots of different miniatures, because most of the scenarios use lots of different bits and pieces. So you want, say you want, half a dozen zombies, or half a dozen giant spiders, or what have you. So, basically it gives you the option to go and get loads of different bits and pieces, or discover loads of different bits and pieces from your existing miniature collection.
Yeah, which is never a bad thing.
Yeah,
No.
and it's in the rules, so we have to.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Yes.
Must follow the rules. Yeah, I mean, by way of an example, I've got the scenario 1 open here, and it says for this mission you will likely need the following miniatures. So the mission is actually made up of 2 separate scenarios. So before you start, you don't actually know what you're going to be facing in each one, although there are some rather large clues. But so for this sort of 2-part mission, you need 6 or more zombies, 3 plus giant rats, 6 plus giant spiders, and 3 plus survivors. So that's you're starting. The first 2 scenarios, I think they are very much almost like sort of training. It's almost like a training mission to start building up your experience.
Yeah. So what other stuff do we need?
It is a traditional sort of tape measure game. None of this funky grid type stuff or area movement. So tape measures, a D20.
D20? D20?
A D20.
What sort of madness is this?
Back the insanity. The only other tabletop game I have actually played with a D20 was probably Frostgrave. But that's all you need. It is just a D20. And you don't need that many of them. Because if there's a combat, you basically, if you roll 2 dice, if you're playing solo, have 2 obviously different coloured dice. One is the monster dice, one is the hero dice. D20s. Scenery, it's funny really, because I mean he talks about the figures. One of the things that I've actually quite enjoyed as well is the scenery aspect. The first game requires it's basically a deserted village. So that gave me the kick up the backside to get some of my tabletop world buildings done, which have been sat in sort of half painted state for a long time. So some of the games are outdoors in villages, some of the games are inside towers. So Mike's got his. So what's the make of your terrain, Mike? I can't remember.
It's Battle Systems.
That's it, Battle Systems.
Battle Systems, and it's the Battle Systems fantasy system, which
That's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah,
which as I keep reading through, yes, I did think, I got to the point, I did think a while ago, I was going, I don't think I'll, you know what, I don't think I'll need this.
No.
And I tell you, with this, and then there is one of the scenario books, which we'll come on to, another one of the scenario books, everything takes place inside buildings. So you basically need set up like a 2-foot room in which to play. If only I had a terrain system I did have a terrain system that you could do that with.
Well, moving on.
Yeah. Never mind.
So
a variety of terrain, but again, that's dependent on the scenario. So the first few that we've done have all been sort of outdoorsy ones, although the first one did have some buildings. But the next, we're heading off towards Tor Varden, which is a watchtower that we've lost contact with. So our next games will involve basically dashing through rooms and kicking over tables, hopefully. A real variety of terrain. I mean, obviously, when it comes to playing inside buildings, you can, there's especially the sort of D&D type players may well have sort of grids and things that they could use instead. You don't need to splash out on fancy terrain systems, but if you've got them, it's a great excuse to dust them off. So I'm quite looking forward to doing some running around inside the tower.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm hoping that now that I know I've just been complaining about, I got rid of that. I'm hoping that instead I'll just be able to substitute the dungeon tiles from one of the D&D games. That I got instead, and hopefully that will work.
Yeah. All right, so let's look at character creation. So everybody gets a ranger, and then that ranger will have one or more recruited sort of companions
Yeah.
join them. So how a ranger's built? You start off with what are called build points. You get 10 build points that you can use to stat out your ranger. And then each ranger has 6 basic stats,
Yeah.
which are move, fight, shoot, armor, will, and health. So, what are those then? So, move, higher the move, the further you can move. So each point of move gives you 1 inch of movement, effectively.
Yeah, there's a base stat line for rangers, so I think the basic move is, you guessed it, 6 inches.
6 inches.
So yeah, you have a basic stat line, and one of the things that you can spend some of your build points on is to adjust those, and there's limitations on how much you can adjust them. I think is it armor that I think armor you can't adjust. Your basic level is essentially how tough a human is. But you can adjust it by buying armor.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can spend build points on adjusting those. One of the things that I must admit, when I looked through the book, in the very first flick through it, let's say without even reading it, there's a long list of skills. So on the ranger sheet across the top, you've got the 6 stats as Mike has described them. Then there's a long list of skills which includes things like acrobatics, climb, picking locks, reading runes, strength, swimming, all sorts of stuff. And I looked at that and my heart sank a little bit because I thought, oh, have I got to remember all these skill rules? But as we'll find out, they're actually really straightforward. And also, you only get to use them if it's part of the scenario. So it's not a case of, oh, well, I want to now do something acrobatic. The scenario will tell you if there's something in that scenario that requires you to pick a lock or navigate or swim or climb. So you don't need to worry about the fact that there's this long list of skills. But again, that you start off with basically level 0 in all of these skills. So the next thing that you can use your build points for is to improve some of those skills. So you can make them +1, +2, which will obviously make it more likely that you do it. And that's quite nice because you can start to develop your character in the direction you want him to be. So if you want him to be fast, a fast acrobatic, climby type of guy, you can boost his movement. You can make him better at acrobatics. You can make him better at climbing, or you can go for someone who's a bit more learned. So you've got navigation, perception, read runes, things like that. So you can start to really sort of characterize your ranger. Because they're not all rough. They don't all have to be big warrior types. So that was quite a relief when I realized I didn't have to learn all these skill rules.
Just to sort of go back a tiny bit, just to the stat line again. So we sort of covered what move is. So move is the number of inches you move.
Yeah.
But then you've got sort of fight, shoot, will, a level between. Well, they sort of start off about 1 or 2 or so as a stat line. But what they're for is, in all of the stuff you're doing, it's you're trying to roll a dice. So you roll your d20, you add your bonus for, say, fighting, and you might be trying to get a higher roll than your opponent if you're doing a fight, or you might be trying to hit a total. So say you've got like a climb ability, and you're forced to climb up somewhere. You will take a climb roll with a target figure, maybe say 10. So what you do is you roll a d20, you add your climb bonus, and if you get 10, you've done it.
Yeah.
So that's what all of these abilities and the sort of stats are for. So the higher they are, the more you've got, the more chance you've got of actually completing it.
Yeah, that's right.
And as you say, there's all sorts of them. And it is quite nice to be able to use those to do stuff.
Yeah. One of the skills is leadership, and if you increase that actually gives you more build points for companions. because obviously you're a leader of men and women, so you attract more companions. So that's one way. If you sort of boost that, it gives you the ability to spend a few more points on your companions, which I know Mark has done, I think, because he normally has an extra companion compared to the rest of us.
Yeah, he does.
So sort of continuing with the build points. Next, I think it's the only other thing that you can spend them on is heroic abilities and spells. So this again gives you, there's quite a long list of these, but you're quite limited as to how many you can have. Now these are one use per scenario, because the scenarios are relatively short, compact actions. You only get to use these heroic abilities once per game. So heroic abilities are things like, I'm just looking at mine. I've got one which is dash, which allows you to add an extra couple of inches to a move once per turn. And I've got a powerful blow, which gives you a +3 to a damage in hand-to-hand combat. So those are freebies. You don't have to spend an action or anything to do those. But you can only buy them once. You can't sort of buy 2 dashes. That's it. The spells are slightly different in that you can buy multiples of them, because again, they're sort of one-use things. So that's heroic abilities and spells. So once you've done that's actually complete. And I found it a really quick and easy way of building a character. I'm not really a great role player myself. This is probably as near as I get to it. I must admit, I like games which have a sort of an RPG-like element to them, and this is definitely one of those. But I enjoyed the character building part of it very much because it was very straightforward. And as I say, there's enough there to allow you to really sort of push or range a character in whichever direction you want it to go.
Yeah.
So once you've done your build points, you have I think it's 6 slots, Mike. I think it's 6 slots for items.
It is. Yes.
Yeah. So this includes your armor and your weapons, and also some equipment like rope and things like that. So my chap's got he's got light armor, which then that does adjust your armor value on your profile. Hand weapon, rope, 3 throwing knives, and I must admit I'm totally useless with a throwing knife. As I've discovered. I even missed a pelican with a throwing knife. Yeah. So, and again, that also allows you to, if you choose a missile weapon, you also have to have a quiver. So there are some limitations. But yeah, and that's essentially your complete ranger. Use your build points to basically to tweak your basic profile, to select your skills, to select your heroic abilities and spells, and then you just fill up your item slots, and that's your rangers done.
Yeah. And then it comes to your companion. So you sort of say you have 100 base recruitment points.
Yeah.
You can use your build points to up that by 10 for every build point you spend.
That's right. Yeah.
So you can go up to at the max you can have 130, and companions cost between 5 and say 35 points.
Yeah. Something like that,
yeah. But what's clever is, depending on the number of rangers that you have playing, the builds, so the recruitment points you have is reduced down quite drastically. So in some cases, if you got 4 rangers, I think you only get 10% of your recruitment
that's
points.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So more likely than not, you're going to have a dog. Or maybe some lad with a with a stick that isn't quite sure which is the sharp end.
Yeah, I've got Toby. Yeah. Toby the recruit is my chap.
I've got Patsy.
Yeah, well, you did have.
No, Patsy's okay.
Oh, is Patsy right?
Yeah, Patsy's fine. Yeah, it was Mark's.
Gregory.
Gregory didn't make it.
Yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
So we'll get on to the what happens between scenarios. But so I've ended up, because I've only got 10 points. Yeah, the leadership skill that I was talking about. A ranger may add his leadership skill to total recruitment points before each mission. So that's another way of boosting the recruitment points slightly. So if you haven't boosted it, we've basically got 10 points to spend, which doesn't get you a lot. Because some of the companions are quite powerful. There's barbarians, there's knights, there's really quite pokey characters. But because we're fielding 4 rangers between us, they are the top characters. It very simply restricts the level of assistance that we're going to get.
It is interesting. So, if you're playing this solo, you'll get 7 characters with a minimum of 100 build points. So you can then see that actually you can get quite an interesting party mix.
Yeah. And these companions are all sort of preset.
Yeah.
So you sort of buy a guardsman. He comes with the basic stats for a guardsman plus the weaponry. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Some of them have got a few skills that they just come with them. That's it. There is some development.
Their armor is pre-painted red.
Yeah. Yeah, although I must admit, quite often my recruit shows my ranger up quite a lot. It's almost like my ranger's trying to do something. My excuse is he's demonstrating. So he says, right, this is how I want you to do it, Toby. And so I then fail the dice roll. Toby then does it, and then looks at the ranger and they go, well, that wasn't that difficult, was it? But yeah, they do develop little characters of their own.
Yes, and it's so upsetting when one dies. Poor Fifi. Yeah.
Oh, she didn't actually. No, she didn't die. Fifi's not dead.
I know she comes to the farm, didn't she? The farm. Yeah. Running around the fields with the other dogs.
She bought the farm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that probably pretty much covers the character creation. I think.
Yeah, it's RPG like you can. And it's quite clever because you can really tweak your character. I mean, mine is a sort of roguish thief style, so, he's armed with a light crossbow. He doesn't like getting to hand. He's got much better shooting ability. But he's, he can hide in shadows. He can evade from combat. He can pick locks, read runes, all that sort of stuff. So I've really done him as a sort of thief style character. Whereas Matt, yours is more...
I don't really actually know what mine is. Yeah, he's slightly unhinged. I don't think it's the brightest. I didn't take any of the sort of clever skills. I based it on the figure. That, as I said earlier, that was a Reaper Bones figure. As I was painting, he's definitely a ranger. He's got he hasn't got a bow, but he's all sort of caped up. And he's got throwing knives on the model on a belt across his chest. Hence my choice of throwing knives, which have proved utterly useless so far. But as I was painting him, the face on the figure, he's got this massive jaw, and I do wonder if he was actually a half orc or something like that, because he's quite a big figure anyway. So I decided to make him a little bit dim. So he's got sort of
not stereotyping at all, are we? Yeah.
Well, yeah, big and dumb. That's what he is. But I've given him a sort of frenzied attack and a powerful blow. But he's a bit rubbish, it has to be said. But so I sort of went down that way. I totally ignored anything that showed education, and so I went more for the sort of outdoorsy type, an outdoorsy type guy. Stealth, strength, survival, those sort of skills.
Mine is more of mine's another world bigger, and it's the is it the assassin or something?
Right, yeah. Which one?
So he's like you say, he's got a little crossbow on his back. He's got throwing knives. He's sort of hiding in shadows, styly, evil-looking, roguey type figure.
Yeah.
And I just, same as you, Matt, I just looked at the figure and thought, right, what sort of stats would you have? And I just started him up for that.
Yeah, I think the nearest I've come to doing a similar sort of exercise was with Open Combat when that first came out. because the whole thing about that was that you could basically take any figures and stack them up as you like. And I literally did that. I looked around the room at figures that were just stood around and hadn't made it back to their boxes. But right, you'll do. And sort of looked at the figures first, and sort of did it that way. But yeah. So I really enjoyed the character creation side of it. Not too involved. So if you're not an RPGer, there's someone like me, it's not too strenuous. But there's so much flexibility within those things.
I know we were saying it's kind of similar to Frostgrave. I haven't played Frostgrave, so and it's a long time since I read the rules. So is there more flexibility than what you get in Frostgrave, or is it similar, but obviously you're building a ranger as opposed to a wizard?
I haven't played Frostgrave for ages. I played it a couple of times, and for some reason it didn't really grab me. It's funny, I've said a few times that if Frostgrave had been cooperative like this, I think I'd have preferred it. I don't recall there being much in the way of character creation in Frostgrave. I think
okay.
I think I may be horribly wrong here, but it is a long time since I had a go at it. I think that the creation side of it comes more around the magic.
Yeah, I think so.
That you select, doesn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think so.
But I apologise to Frostgrave players because I don't remember it as well as I should.
Mm.
But no, I certainly don't remember there being a character creation thing like the Rangers. The bit where you build up your companions for your mob is similar, but of course you're playing against other warbands, so you wouldn't have that sort of reduction in warband size that you get with this.
Mm.
All right, so let's have a look at the turn sequence, Sam, because that's the next episode. He says, reading from the book, each turn is divided into 4 phases: the Ranger phase, the Creatures phase, the Companion phase, and the Event phase. So, let's start with the Ranger phase.
The Ranger phase, yeah. So the turn sequence the order of play is decided by the Ranger who has the highest will value. And so if there's, I think who's got the highest will in our mob at the moment? Did Mark go up?
Mark.
Yeah, Mark's just gone up, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So, Mark's Ranger's got the highest will. So each Ranger turn, Mark goes first, and then we just work our way around the table in sequence. So Mark would be going first. So he activates his Ranger, and this is quite similar to Frostgrave, as I remember it. Up to 2 companions who are within 2 inches, Mike, or 3? 3 inches. 2 inches. 3 inches.
3, yeah.
Can also be activated. So you activate the figures one at a time normally. There is a group activation as well, so you can all do it together. Yeah, so you activate your figures one at a time, and they each get 2 actions. Do you want to go into the activations now, Mike, or just go through the sort of sequence?
Yeah, we'll go through the sequence quickly, and then we'll touch on to the activation.
Yeah. So so that's the Ranger phase. So if you're starting off with your Ranger and your companions all close together, they'll probably all get to activate in that phase. Especially as we are the games we're playing. There's 4 Rangers. Mark's got 2 companions. The rest of us got 1. So at the start of the game, the first round, you probably will get to move them all in that phase. Then we have the Creature phase. So there is as we've said already, there's a very simple AI system for that. So the creatures do their thing. Then there's a Companion phase. So in the same order as we did for the Ranger phase, so the highest will player starts off. If they've got any companions who didn't get to move in the Ranger phase or activate in the Ranger phase, this is when they do their bit. And once they're all done, we get to the 4th phase, which is the Event phase, which is the end of turn. And there will often, depending on the scenario, there will be often a turn of an event card, which will introduce extra bits, extra monsters, or it might reveal clues. But there's a preset for each scenario. There's a preset list of events which are attached to a playing card. Oh, there you go. That's something we forgot to say. You need some playing cards.
Oh yeah, playing cards.
Playing cards, or maybe playing card tokens. Should you, because obviously they're available as well, rather than cards.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
but playing cards are probably easier.
Yeah, the nice thing as well is that it does sort of help you track the length of the game, because that's normally related to the events. So if normally there are, let's say normally in the scenarios we've played, you get one more event card than there are a number of turns. So you won't always get every single event come out, and there'll always be one that doesn't quite. So if it's a 9-turn game, there's probably 10 event cards. So so you know that once there's only one card left, that you're on your last turn.
Oh, okay.
That's quite neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the turn sequence. So ranger phase, creature phase, companion phase, and event phase. Simple as that.
Okay, so activations. We said that when something is activated, they get two actions.
They do.
This is quite nice because one of the actions can be anything. Move, shoot, fight, jump,
cast spells,
cast spell, that sort of stuff. Open caskets, all sort of stuff. The second activation can only be a movement, but there are a few specific things like reloading a crossbow.
Yeah.
Like that. And you can do them in any order. So it does mean that you can move twice, but if you move twice, there is a penalty.
Yeah, the second move is half of your move stat. So the first time you move in a turn, so if you've got a normal 6-inch move, if you move twice, you can move 9 inches. If you decide to shoot your bow and then move, that's still your first movement, so it's still 6 inches. Or as Mike says, you can move and then fire your bow. So you can do those in whatever order you like. There is a penalty for moving and then shooting, normal sort of thing.
And it is interesting that you don't get a charge action. So you move into combat, and then your second activation is to fight. You don't get a single activation to charge.
Yeah. But they do have a group activation.
They do.
Which means that you can move with your companion into combat, generally, with an enemy, and all fight together instead of one of you moves in, has a fight, the second one moves in, has a fight.
Yeah, it's. I think the example in the book, it says it's most commonly used for ganging up on an enemy, because you do get a bonus. And in the normal turn of events, you activate each figure. Has to do both actions at once. If you do a group activation, they can all move and then do their second action. So you could send 2 guys in against a big monster, which would then give both of those guys an outnumbering bonus. That does. I think that's the only time we've actually used it so far. Is to sort of help us gang up on something.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got the standard rules in there, as you would expect, with sort of backgrounds, and climbing over things, jumping, swimming, all that sort of stuff, which affects your sort of movement and stuff. So, but as you say, Neil, moving into combat, you can move into base contact. If you do that as your second activation, you're not going to initiate the combat.
Yes, you just stood there waiting to get whacked. Because, funnily enough, yes, after you've activated, the bad guys activate. Oh, look, you're in base-to-base contact.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Exactly. What they do have, which is nice, is forcing combat. So, if you ever move within 1 inch of an enemy that's not in combat, that figure can choose to force combat, which means you can't just sneak past an enemy as if they're not there.
Yeah, and the heroes always have the option to do it. Monsters have to do it. It's built into their DNA. So yeah, it's handy for like guarding passages or a wide-ish gate. You can't just walk straight past them.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Right, so that's movement done.
Yeah, pretty much, I think.
You pick your character, move your 6 inches, move how many inches you need to move, and away you go.
Yeah.
Right. Hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah. And this is dead easy as well, isn't it? Really, it is it's an opposed roll. So someone rolls. Well, you roll for your hero, and someone rolls for the monster. That's quite funny how keen some of us are to roll for monsters.
Oh, yes.
Because it is cooperative, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Completely cooperative.
Yeah. Let me do it.
Well, it's like completely cooperative in the same style that you normally play cooperative games, Mr. Hobbs.
Yeah, we're getting better.
Yeah, because as we'll discuss later with the experience and stuff, it is totally cooperative. There is absolutely no benefit in stitching each other up in this game at all. But someone's got to roll for the bad guy. But yeah, sometimes we're more reluctant than others.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the two characters roll their d20s. They add their fight score. There aren't many modifiers, which again is a big plus in my book because I'm not very good at remembering them. The most common one on the actual hand-to-hand combat is if you're being outnumbered. There are some of the sort of magical bits and pieces which will adjust the combat roll. There's actually more things that affect the damage roll, the damage amount, which you don't actually worry about unless you've actually scored a hit, which I quite like. If you're going to have modifiers, make sure that you've hit first. So the only modifiers are if you're being ganged up, each of the characters on each of the sort of ganging up ones get a +2 bonus on their combat roll. So you roll them off. You add your combat score. The highest total wins. And then if you've beaten the armor of your opponent, you deduct the armor from your total, and that's the amount of damage you do. So you then take that off of their health value. So this is where, as I say, that there's crossbows are not on missile fire yet, but two-handed weapons, for example, they do extra damage. There's some of the heroic abilities, like the one I've got, which is Powerful Blow. So if I've scored a hit and I do some damage, I can add an extra 3 damage. So again, it's on the damage roll. And that's essentially how you take chunks off people. If it's a tie, interestingly, basically you both count as winning. And that's quite interesting because it means that if you have a high tie, you will both take damage. Because it's a complete opposed roll. So both of you, it doesn't matter who's attacking, you can both get damaged. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah, and to give you some idea, the standard sort of armor level for those characters is 10 or 11.
Yeah.
So if you roll, say, 19, and say you roll a dice, you've added on your fight value, say you get to 19, your opponent rolls 16, that means you've won. So what you do, you take off their armor level of, say, 11, and that means there's 8 points of health are taken off the enemy. And something like a Null will have a health of 11, I think.
I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you can whip them down, but most of the Rangers will have health of about 18, 19.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a couple of good hits to kill off a Ranger.
Yeah.
But, it can, you can get a little nick of, say somebody rolls a 13 against you. You got armor of 11. You're only taking 2 points of health damage. If they roll a 19, you're taking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And for Rangers and Companions, they can also, if they roll a natural 20, it's a critical.
Yep.
A critical is +5.
+5 on the damage, and you win the combat. So even if your opponent has got over 20, which is possible, in total, you still count as winning the combat. So the bad guys can't score critical hits. Although I was flicking through, I was reading the rules today, and I noticed it does say that some of the baddies are immune to critical hits, which I thought was quite interesting. So that's going to be some real toughies there.
Yeah. So I mean.
Yeah. So that's melee.
What's the difference between that and ranged combat?
Well, I was just going to say, there's one other thing with the close combat. If you're already in combat with someone, chances are your first action will be to fight them. If you win a combat, you can either stay in the fight, or you can push your opponent back an inch, or you can withdraw an inch yourself. So that does mean that if you manage to win win your round of combat, you have the opportunity to move and get out, get away. There's I think, what's the evade skill that you've got, Mike? Does that get you out of combat?
Yeah. So even if I've lost, I can move out of combat an inch.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't think there is any kind of there's no way of getting out of combat other than sort of fighting your way out.
Yeah.
Unless you've got the evade skill.
That means that you say you're already locked in combat. We get to the next turn, and it's the ranger turn. You activate. You're in combat. It means that I could, if I wanted to, I could have a round of combat. If I win, I could push him back an inch and then use my second action to move away.
Yeah.
Hopefully as a range, which you do when you've got a lot against you.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much close combat covered. Ranged combat is very, very similar. We've got we have a shoot ability. So again, it's another opposed one. So we both roll our d20s. The shooter adds his shoot value. The target adds their fight value. And then there are some modifiers, and this is all done on the added to the target. So there are pluses for being in cover. I think the only negative is I think there's a minus if you're a large target. So that's how they deal with cover. And it's effectively the same thing. So if you beat your opponent, if the shooter beats the target score, they've scored a hit. If your total is higher than their armor, again you deduct the armor value, and that's the amount of damage you do. Ranges are, I think it's 24 inches for bows and crossbows.
It's 24 inches, isn't it?
Yeah. And, 8 inches rubbish throw knives. Not that bitter.
But obviously, you're remembering that you're playing on a 2.5 foot, 3 foot square table. Yeah. So you can cover the majority of the table with the ranged weapon, unless you've got throwing knives.
Yes. Yeah. I don't advocate throwing knives.
No, unless you're really close. Yeah. And then there's things like poison, disease, hunger and thirst, blah blah blah. Which all have.
Yeah. So poison disease is related to some of the creatures that you'll encounter. So if you take damage from certain types of creature, you do a health roll against your current health. So we generally found that if you're testing for these and you're at full health, to be honest, you don't even need to roll the dice. But as you get weaker, so if you've taken some damage during the game and you suddenly get bitten by that diseased rat, there is much more chance that actually you'll get diseased. So again, that's quite nice, because initially I was thinking, well, this seems a bit of a waste of time, but then suddenly you take a load of damage and okay. if I roll a really duff d20 here, I could end up getting diseased, which affects you between games, which is not very nice. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for combat, I think. Have you got anything there?
No, I think that's it. It's straightforward.
Yeah,
nice
it is.
Easy.
It is very straightforward. When I did notice that the book, as Mike said earlier, is over 200 pages, but the actual rules themselves don't take up a huge amount of the book, and it's all nicely spread out as well, so it's not all crammed into a few pages. But yeah, the vast majority of the book is sort of dedicated to the sort of scenarios and constructing your characters. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it for how all the combat works.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth just saying that if you're in combat, so when you move into combat, so say my ranger moves into combat, has an attack, and nothing much happens, you're sort of locked into combat. The next phase along is the creature's phase.
Yeah.
And if the creature's in basic contact with you, they will attack.
Yeah, yeah. I was just going to run through because I think that's sort of the next phase, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
The monster phase. I mean, how their combat works is all exactly the same.
Mm.
But yeah, the way that the sort of the very simple AI works for the evil creatures, as they're described. Yeah, there's only sort of three checks that you have to do, really. So the first priority is the creature in combat. If it is, it will fight you. If it wins the combat, it will choose to stay in combat and won't worry about its second action. The next check is there a hero in line of sight? So if that is the case and the creature's got a missile weapon, it will shoot. And if it doesn't have a missile weapon, it will move towards the closest hero. Now, this is where they're slightly disadvantaged, because if it takes them into combat, it will use its second action to fight. If not, it will use its second action to move closer. So they're a little bit more rash than the heroes are. So they will just quite merrily wade into combat, even though they're not going to have an attack at the end of it. But it obviously does give the rangers something to have to deal with in their turn. And if that's not the case, the third one is whether the scenario has a target point or not. This is quite a clever little idea. So most of the scenarios do have a target point. So if none of the other things apply, so essentially they're not in combat or they can't see a hero, they will move towards a designated target point. Now that could be a building, or it could be the nearest treasure token, for example. Something else which we'll come to when we get to the actual scenarios. And if there isn't a target point, then they will move in a random direction. So the way that works is that you do their first action as a move in a random direction. You then check to see if there's now a hero in line of sight. If there is, then they toddle off and start trying to attack that hero. If not, the creature doesn't do a second action. And that's it. I mean, it sounds simple, and it is simple, but it seems to work. I think it's only the last one that we did where there was an awful lot. The last scenario we played where there was a lot of blocking terrain, where the Knoll sentries did do a bit of random wandering about. But to be honest, as soon as we got stuck in, it was fairly obvious where the Knolls were going to go, and they all start heading towards us.
I quite like it. Interesting when they talk about movement in a random direction. How they talk about, remember the fact that the faces of a D20 are triangular. So if you want a random direction dice, all you need to do is roll the D20, and the apex of the triangle that is above the number. Is the random direction. And it's like it's something I never even thought about. It's like, what a good idea.
Yeah. So I think I was doing that, and the guys were looking at me thinking I was doing some sort of arcane ritual. So they realised,
you're just rolling the dice and going,
what's he doing?
How did you know that? I was trying to work it out. He rolled a 15 and he went by there. And now he's rolled a 10 and it's over there. But that makes no sense.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't explained it now.
You shouldn't have.
I should have kept the mystery.
Yeah. Okay, so that's sort of the rule. That's the basic rules, isn't there? I mean,
I think so.
It's all scenario driven. So let's look at how scenarios are put together, and then we can chat about the campaign system, which I think is the key thing with this whole game.
Yeah. So I think that if I sort of just talk through roughly scenario 1, which is the deserted village, and that will sort of give a pretty good. I can sort of talk through the sort of event tables and stuff without any spoilers, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So You're basically sent off to a village. One of your fellow rangers has already gone ahead, but nothing's been heard of him since. He's gone out to this village to investigate what's been going on, because there's been reports of strange creatures. So yeah, this is the one where you get a mission brief. So this mission is made up of 2 parts. So we'll go through scenario 1, which is the deserted village. So it's already told us the miniatures that we will likely need. So let's say in this one, it's zombies, rats, spiders, and survivors. This scenario, having said earlier that it's normally played on 2.5 foot square, this one is actually played on a 3 foot square. And there's a few buildings dotted around. So it tells you roughly where your buildings need to be. The heroes and the rangers and companions all start in the center point of the table. So they've basically got to the village, and then there's this. They were just about to split out to search, and a horrible moaning sound came from all around. So the setup explains, say, where the buildings are. It also tells you where you put clue markers. Some of those are in the buildings, some of them are spread about. And then it also tells you where some of the starting creatures appear. So in this one, there's some giant rats adjacent to 2 randomly determined buildings, and one zombie placed 6 inches in from the center point of each table. So yeah, that's our sort of starting position. We're in the middle of a village. The moans start to go up, and stuff happens. So it then gives you some special rules. Now this is where I was saying earlier about the skills. You've got this long list of skills, but it's not a case of I want to use the strength skill now. The scenario before you start will designate where you need to do, if there's anything where you will need to do this sort of thing. So, for example, before the scenario begins, choose one figure to make a perception roll TN8. If successful, you may move one of the clue markers that's not in the house 6 inches directly towards the figure. So to do a TN8 perception roll, if it was my character, as I said earlier, he's a bit dim, so I've got no perception whatsoever. So I'd just roll a d20 if it was me, and I'd need 8 or more to succeed. Now, because there's 4 rangers in our group, we can actually look and see who's got the best perception. So, yeah, I think Mike's has got quite high perception. So
yeah,
we would go with his character, because it allows us to choose any of our figures to do it. So because, assuming Mike succeeds, he's spotted something, so that marker gets moved towards that figure. It tells you that some of the buildings are locked. So again, it tells you that you can make a pick lock roll, TN8, or a strength roll. So you can either pick the lock, or you can try and batter the door down. And again, done it in exactly the same way. So I'm slightly better on strength there. So so if I'm trying to batter a door down, I roll a d20, I add my strength +2, and try and get 8 or more, and then I knock the door down. So we basically play through the turn sequence as we've described it. There are several, as I've mentioned, there are several clue markers on the table in this one. So if you move into contact with a clue counter, you can spend an action to see what it is. And then you roll a dice, and it could be more villains, more monsters, or it could be clues as to the mission. Remembering that we've been sent to try and find this lost ranger, it could be clues to do with that. So I won't go through them all, because it's sort of spoilers for you, really.
Yeah.
So this one, the scenario ends after 8 turns have been played. At the end of each turn, if you remember, there's the event phase. So on this one, there are 9. It's 8 turns, but there's 9 event cards. So one of them isn't going to come up. So again, the events can be more bad guys turn up. There's building collapses. That's quite entertaining. Yeah, we've had that one. So again, at the end of each turn, you turn one of the cards. In this one, they're red ace through to red 9. It really doesn't matter what color the card is, because you don't have a full deck. You just have 9. You have those cards, so ace through to 9. I'm assuming that in future ones there might be different events depending on the color of the card, perhaps. So you would already have your little pile of your mini deck of cards, which would just be the red ace through to the red 9, all shuffled together. And as I say, every time you've finished a turn, you get rid of, you do an event card. So you know that once you've got the one card left, that's your last turn, and you're done. Then it also tells you how you gain experience. So outcome and experience. So it's basically telling you how to win the game, and what you get for killing monsters or finding clues or finding other things, which again I won't spoil. Yeah, some of these things, a lot of these things are related to the clue counters, the sort of encounter markers. Because that was interesting. Because I hadn't properly read the experience rules, which is probably the next thing we'll come on to. And this is where, as I say, is truly cooperative, because we were keeping separate lists. Typical cooperative gamers, we were keeping separate lists of what we'd killed, what we'd found. And then I read the experience rules, and actually, you all get the same total experience. So you only have to keep a running total of all the experience that you gain, and then you all get it. So it's not a case of, oh, well, I've killed more rats than Mike, so I get more experience. We just get the same. So each scenario is pretty much made up in the same way. So you get your setup, your special rules, clue marker table, if appropriate, if there are clue markers, which most of the scenarios have, event cards, and they will be different for each of the scenarios, and then your outcome and experience. So the next thing you do is calculate the experience. Yeah. Is there anything else, Mike, you want to say about how a scenario sort of works?
No, that's all it. I mean, you've got 4 separate sections for the sort of campaign phase that you sort of do at the end of the game. Yeah. So, the first thing you do is check for injury and death. So, if any of their rangers or companions have been reduced up to 0 health, you make a roll to see if they survive. Then you calculate your experience. And then you roll for treasure, and then you can reorganize companions and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it varies slightly between scenarios as to who comes back again. So that the mission that we've just done, because we're sort of against the clock, we restore all our health back to full health. But any of the companions who have been taken out, they don't come back. So for our the next scenario in this particular mission, we get to increase our experience and everything, and check for our wounds. But because we did lose, we had a few companions go down to 0, didn't we?
Yeah.
And so one was actually killed outright. Was it yours? Was Patsy? He's not with us next time, is he?
No, Patsy's fine. It's Gregory who's died.
Yeah, but Patsy got down to 0.
Patsy. Yeah.
Yeah, so Patsy won't be in the next scenario.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, because he's off getting his wounds sorted. And same with poor old Fifi. Fifi the dog. Yeah, it didn't have a very good game, did Fifi?
No.
Set off a booby trap and then caught a stick that was flying towards it. Unfortunately, it was an arrow.
Yeah.
So poor old Fifi bought it. But again, Fifi has survived, but she's not fit to go straight into the next scenario. But you do some of the scenarios also when you will sometimes encounter friendlies as well. In the last one, we found a soldier who'd escaped from the tower that we're heading towards, so he's joined us. So you will get sort of temporary companions who join you along the way as well. So the other thing. So we've gone. You can check for injury. You can get some permanent injuries as well. So you can have knackered arms, crushed arms, lost fingers, lost toes, smashed jaws, that sort of thing. And the experience can help you progress through the levels as well. So when you're between, if you're level 0 up to 5, every time you go through 100 experience points, you go up a level. And depending which level you've gone on to, that allows you to improve skills or improve stats. and again, it's very straightforward. And then the companions, they also have a progression, but it's much slower. They basically get a point for every scenario that they survive. And when they get up to, for example, 5 progression points, they gain 1 health, for example. But they only get something every 5 points, which is effectively every 5 games. Yeah, and then there's a load of charts for treasure, golden jewels, herbs and potions, weapons, magic items that you might find along the way. So they're all D20 tables. Just roll the dice and see what you get.
Yeah, so what you tend to do is you have these missions which are sort of made up of multiple scenarios. So before you start a mission, you work out which companions you want to take. And you can keep like a sort of pot of companions, which you can bring back. I just had a look at it, just say after each scenario you roll on the death or injury. So I think Patsy fully recovers, so Patsy can be in the next scenario.
No, yeah, but on the actual, in that particular
there
mission.
Some special art in the mission, of course, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the mission bit. Yeah, normally you would.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the idea is it's supposed to be a bit of we're supposed to be under a bit of time pressure. So our sort of wounded fellows, yes, they'll come back, but they're not able to keep up with us.
Yeah. They can go back to the village.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you say, you go up levels. Each level you go up give you a bit of a bonus. Nothing huge, but it just adds a few bits here and there, and companions do the same at a slower rate.
There are several published missions, aren't there? There are. Is it 3 in the in the base rulebook? I think it's 3, isn't it? 3 missions.
Yes, there's 3 missions which are made up of multiple sort of 2 or 3 scenarios, but then of course you've got there's an entire campaign as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
This one, something which I can't remember the name of.
The
Burning Light.
Burning Light, which is a 9 scenario campaign.
Yeah, so that's a campaign for Rangers level 5 to 15.
And
then
that's
rather good. That.
Yeah, that is pretty decent. Yeah, I've got that one as well. And there is a scenario which it's a one-off. It's a one scenario which is called is it Full Moon? But essentially it's funny enough it's Rangers versus werewolves. I think that's a single scenario mission. But that's also a separate book. But introduces things like you need basically wolves, villagers, wolves, and werewolves for that.
Yeah, I think that's just a PDF. I think that one, isn't it?
But I think you can get it printed. I think you can get it printed on demand.
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah.
They did that one printed as well, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got the PDF. Mission 1, Blood Moon, Scenario 1, Claw and Fang.
That's it.
Yeah, that's quite interesting because it's level. What does it say for levels 1 to 5 or 6 to 10? So I think I saw there's 2 different sort of levels of events.
Yes,
so if you're higher level rangers, you get tougher events, which is a nice idea.
Yeah, and these sort of campaigns are quite nice. You are running. It's almost like playing an RPG campaign, but you're playing on a tabletop. So, for example, it sort of says in this the Burning Light mission, that there's a convent, and you said that there's 3 ways to enter it. And if you go through the main gate, you play scenario A, or you play scenario B, or you play scenario C.
Yeah, I think you can choose which way you explore the whole convent, can't you?
Yeah, basically you choose your entrance path, and then once you've completed that scenario, you can go to anywhere that's adjacent to it.
Yeah.
And the idea is, basically you're searching for something, so you're looking for clues in order to
the Cantor of Saint Amelia.
That's it. And then once you think you found it, and once you think you know where it is, you go to the final scenario. Which is
Yeah,
I like the fact with this one as well. You've got that big notes section,
yes.
which reminds me of almost like the old choose your own adventure type books, because there's various notes that obviously you don't want to read before you play the game, because it recommends that you go through a lot of the rest of it to get an idea of what you're going to need. But there are notes, so it'll send you off to note number such and such, and there's a long list of notes at the back of the book. So that's quite neat as well.
Yeah, it's all very cleverly done. It's
a lot of work's gone into it. Hell of a lot.
What do you like about it, then?
What in particular do I like? I really like the character, how you put the characters together. For me, it's just right. It's not too much. I know some people might find it lacking, but the way the scenarios are written, you don't need any more than what's on the Ranger sheet. Because as I've said a couple of times about the skills, it will tell you where you have the opportunity to use those skills. So I really like that, and it was really fast. It took me no time at all I basically sat there with my Ranger figure and thought, what do you look like? And there was enough flexibility there. If I'd chosen one that looked a bit more wizardy, I could have made him a lot more magic, more of a magic user. But I went through a bit of a brute force kind of guy. So yeah, I really like that. I mean, the scenarios are superb. I mean, I didn't really appreciate until I got into the book how many scenarios were actually in there. I thought you had the initial couple, and then there was the campaign. But actually, once I got past the first couple, oh wait a minute, it carries on. So it's not just investigating the village and finding out what's gone on there. You just get back, and then you're sent off to investigate the next problem. Just lots of games to be done. I mean, it's quite unusual for us to play any game sort of more than once in a row. But this one, we've done, was it 3 missions back to back?
Yeah.
We
played it 4 times in total.
Yeah.
And of course, the big thing is that it's a silo or cooperative. And that is and that's huge, isn't it, these days?
Yeah.
It's it really is a case of it is different because you're all in it together. It's not a case of somebody has to play the bad guys.
Yeah. And as I said, even down to the fact that it doesn't matter if I kill all the rats, we all get the experience. So it is it is truly cooperative. So you really are trying to work as a bit of a team. And you do find that we end up having those discussions. Well, if you do that, you're better at doing this, so you go and do that. I'm better at doing this, well, I'll go and do that. So you can sort of use the more appropriate characters to do the various parts of the missions. Yeah, I don't think I've played anything quite like it.
No.
To say the cooperative nature of it. I love the fact that I suppose the zombie game I was talking about when we were back talking about Zombicide, that was similar in that the zombies were all controlled by the game, but they were very sort of 2-dimensional, typical zombies. Whereas when we encountered the gnolls and they've got missile weapons, that was the first time we'd had something that actually stops and shoots at us rather than just blindly running towards us. That
was interesting.
Yes, that was quite. Yeah, that was quite a shock to the system because the previous game we'd been fighting spiders, which were surprisingly squishy. Gnolls are a lot less squishy than spiders.
Yes.
It's really good, and you can't. It's funny because the Rangers are pretty good. They're pretty tough characters, but because of the D20, there is always that chance that even the lowliest rat or zombie or spider can do you a real mischief. And that's quite good as well, because it almost seemed a little bit too easy sometimes to kill stuff. But they only have to get you once. And I think Mike, your Ranger ended up on 1 health, didn't he? In the last game.
Yeah, he did.
Very nearly had our first sort of Ranger down to 0 health. And it can happen quite easily. I mean, there are ways of healing as well. One of the is that one? I think it's one of the magical abilities, isn't it? It's a heal
spell.
Which can give you or one of your chaps 5 points of damage back. And you can use that on each other as well. but that 5 can quite easily be lost again. Well, the combat system's dead simple. So I like the fact that pretty much all the modifiers are done after you've worked out if you've even hit anybody. There's a lot of games out there where you do an awful lot of calculation and then you roll the dice. You might not even hit anybody. So I quite like it being done that way around.
And of course, another thing is, from a plus point of view, is that just the sheer range of different models you can use for the game.
And
it's got a pretty decent bestiary in it for but and of course that's expanding. And already we've seen, like, on the Facebook group, there are people that are writing their own campaigns and publishing them for people to play. And what have you. So there seems to be, there's growing community. They all seem to be pretty popular. So there's a lot of scope for extra play.
Yeah. So anything bad about them?
I'm struggling.
Dogs die too quickly.
Only if they try and catch. Only if they try and catch pointy sticks.
Oh. Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think quite a few of us have found that again, not too many spoilers, but a lot of us have found that the second scenario was a bit odd, because the first one was excellent and quite challenging. And the second one, I'm sure we weren't doing anything wrong, because other people have said the same thing. The second scenario it was over in a flash. I think we only got halfway through the turns and we'd sort of finished it. That was a bit odd. So I don't think we did anything wrong. But as I say, other than that, the other two scenarios that we've done were very good. Quite challenging and seem quite well balanced. And that's quite an interesting thing to be able to do. Sorry, I'm talking about good things again now.
That's okay.
In that there are potentially one ranger playing the game or 4 rangers playing the game, and yet the scenario still seems balanced. I think that's quite a clever thing to manage to do. Although obviously we've not actually tried it with. I've not tried playing it co-op on my own, but I've watched a video of a guy playing it solo, and he did the first scenario, and it went very, very similar to the way ours went, but just with one ranger but more companions. I think that's quite clever that managed to get the balance right. But it's very much dependent on the quality of the scenario. I mean, we did that night where we played the second one, and it was over in a flash. We then sort of combined the events tables from the first 2 games and sort of set up another one, and actually that worked quite well. So
it was great fun.
Yeah, and we just had a good old bash. So we sort of decided that we were on our way back from that mission. Went through another bit that was occupied by spiders and zombies and and rats that we'd already encountered. And I just sort of merged the events tables, and that seemed to work quite well. So I think with a little bit of practice, I think it would be fairly straightforward to come up with good scenarios yourself. But it is quite dependent on the scenario. Whether that's it's not really a pick up and play game at all. It is much more along the lines of a role playing campaign, I would have thought.
Yeah, and again, that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the thing that Fosgrave was missing, because Fosgrave was quite a sort of set up in the way you go. You each bring your force and scrap out to go and count, to capture as much treasure as possible.
Yeah,
this is very much down. It is RPG light.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As I said earlier, I think if there was a sort of a wizardy version, if there was Wizards of Shadow Deep, I think I'd probably enjoy that.
I'm sure it'll arrive soon.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can we get them? Well, we've already got them. Where can listeners?
Right. Okay.
Mine's over here.
It's drivethrough-rpg.com, isn't it?
Yeah. And you can get them. You can either get them in PDF format. You can get them in. You can get them as print on demand. And as already been said, but they take up to a couple of weeks to come through. If you get them print on demand, you will get a PDF version as well. If you order hard copy. Another way of getting them, they are available on Kindle. So actually, I've got mine on my Kindle. Price-wise, so for example, at the moment, you could get the base game plus the werewolf scenario for just under £11. Burning Light is that's for the Kindle version. And you were saying the print on demand for Shadow Deep is $30. You were saying?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, it's about that.
Yeah.
And that gets you the PDF as well, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a 211-page book.
Yeah. Watermark PDF, $20. I'd not noticed that. You can get it as a hardcover. Softcover black and white book, $30. Hardcover black and white book, $40. But at the moment they have got watermark PDF and softcover for $30, whereas it should be $50, and the hardcover plus the PDF is $40. I must admit, if I'd known it was going to be so good, I'd have got the hardback.
Yeah. Should listen to the review then. And there's quite a nice amount of stuff building up on Board Game Geek, as you would expect. So there's they've got lots of little free-form fillable ranger sheets you can download, companion sheets, game tokens, quick weapons sheet, which you don't really need.
Creature cards.
Creature cards could be useful.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
And there's some new scenarios also appearing on there.
Yeah, and as I say, there's a very active Facebook group for it as well. And I'm sure that. We'll ask him in a few weeks, but I'm sure Joe is working on new material for the game as well. So interesting one. As I say, it's I know it's kind of this is quite one of the hotnesses at the moment. But actually, it is a decent game. And something a bit different, and something for several guys. And of course it's one of these games that it means that several of you can play. Right. And it's a miniatures game as opposed to for example, we were having this conversation the other week in our group, and Luffy was saying, well, you know what, he said, I know we've been playing lots of board games. I want to play a miniatures game.
Yeah.
Here we go. You got a cooperative, a fully cooperative miniatures game. As you say, it's almost RPG like.
Yeah, definitely.
I've actually just thought probably the one thing that can be a little bit bad is when you start a mission. So say you've got a 2 or 3 scenario mission. You need to make sure all the players are there for all of those scenarios, because the amount of companions you can have is dependent on the number of rangers. And you can't sort of add in extra companions between a lot of these missions. So between a lot of the scenarios in the mission.
Yeah. Yes, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably the one downside. So, for example, we started doing this 3 scenario mission. We played the first one to get over the Knoll Bridge.
Yeah.
Ralph can't make the next few weeks. So we're like, okay, well, we can't really, do the mission because that would mess up what companions we'd have. So we're putting that on hold until Ralph's back in, and then we'll start it again.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
It would only be for certain missions, I think.
Yeah.
But as Mike says, the one that we're doing at the moment, there is a sort of a time pressure to it. So there's no scope in this one for us sort of having a rest, or one of our rangers sort of toddling off and the other 3 carry on, because your companions, you sort of reset your companions generally at the end of missions rather than at the end of scenarios.
Yeah.
But cool. It's so unusual that we play anything on consecutive weeks anyway.
Yeah. and we really wanted to. It's like, we sort of finish it, but it's like, okay, let's play again next week. I really want to see what happens. Yeah. I want to see what happens to my character.
Yeah. And I must admit, we laugh a lot when we're playing it.
we do.
I mean, there are some daft things happen, but it's sort of hilarious.
Yeah.
As they normally to Ralph's dog, but
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting as well that there was a comment made that when we first heard about this, Mike was kind of you kind of mentioned you were interested up until the point that you discovered it that you found out it was based on Frostgrave mechanics.
Yeah.
So let's say that at the start you weren't well disposed towards the game.
No, because I really didn't like Frostgrave.
Yeah, this is it. So it's interesting. It's really interesting to hear how much you like the game, considering the fact that essentially you weren't well disposed towards that mechanic engine in a different game.
Yeah, it's very weird. I think he has made a few little tweaks to it too, but I think it's just down to the fact it's Matt said earlier. It's cooperative. We're all playing together, and we're playing against a joint enemy. We're not playing against each other, and seeing our characters dying very, very quickly. It just seems more balanced. I don't know whether that little tweak he's done to the criticals has changed it that much, but it just feels different.
Yeah. I keep meaning to get Frostgrave off the shelf again and just compare the two combat systems because something's changed. I know, the monsters can't do criticals in this, which I assume they did in Frostgrave. But yeah, I need to look again at Frostgrave just to see what it was because I was the same. We played one game of Frostgrave and I thought, this is a good laugh, and then we played it again and it just didn't. You would spend so much time trying to work out combinations of magic and stuff like that. It felt like the sort of game that you would have to play a lot to get to grips with it.
Yeah.
Whereas Rangers, I don't think you need to play it a lot to get to grips with it. We've just wanted to play it because it's just fun. It is just a fun game. So I will get around to that at some point. Possibly.
Cool. So that is Rangers of Shadow Deep. Available from DriveThruRPG and a couple of other places as well, like Amazon, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll take a quick break and then it's be about time to wrap up, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So before we go, it's time to revisit our section where we find out what's Dave bought this week. Well, I have to report that Dave had been threatening for a while that he was going to be going to Robincon with the thought of spending money. Interestingly, actually, Matt, since I know you were there as a trader, but what did you think of Robincon? Because obviously, first 2 years the show was called Robin, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Red on Blue in Nottingham. Now it's called Robincon. It's under new management, and they've changed the show slightly. So it's now much more less war games orientated, more tabletop gaming orientated.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know what your thoughts were on, what you thought of the show this year.
Yeah, I don't think it didn't. I know what you mean. There was a slightly different balance of trade as well as some interesting. Obviously, I was with Deb Savagoose who does the embroidered bags, but there were traders doing other sorts of similar, almost sort of crafty type accessories, and there was a girl there who does sort of vintage clothing and things like that. So it definitely seemed to be trying to widen its remit a little bit. I was chatting to Colm, the guy who's done most of the organising, and I think that's what he's trying to do is sort of find an identity for the show. He'd been let down apparently by some sort of board game group who was supposed to come in and almost run like a board game library on the day.
Okay.
But that fell through, unfortunately. But yes, because there weren't that many what we'd describe as traditional sort of 6x4, 12x6 type tabletop games, were there?
No, not at all.
No, and there's a few. Obviously, the War Banner guys were demoing. Their Gangs of Rome and Mortal Gods going. But there weren't many games, and I did hear that comment from a few people. I'd be interested to know what the numbers through the door were like. I don't think it was hugely different from previous years.
Right.
It didn't feel much busier or quieter.
It did. I say it did look a bit. It did look a bit quieter. Having said that,
it's spread out.
It was spread out a lot more this
lots
year.
Of gaps. Yeah. Because when Donna ran it, there was still quite a lot of space around. And I must admit, then I thought, well, it's sort of got room to grow. But they could definitely get some more games in. It's probably not worth getting more traders in for the number of people that are coming to the show. But I think it needs more games. Now, whether they go down the board game participation route, which I'm guessing from the sort of crowd that were organising it, I think that might be more their thing. I can't suddenly imagine that there's going to be big, sort of demo games suddenly turning up. It's not that sort of show, I don't think.
No.
But no, I mean, trade-wise, we did fine. A lot of my sort of regular customers still turned up. It's got potential, I think, because it's a great location. It was really easy to get to. Even from our neck of the woods.
Yeah. It's got a good location. It's and with it being Nottingham, it's hopefully you thought that most people, a lot of people would from kind of Leadbout sort of area, that sort of thing available.
Interestingly, Com had absolutely no idea that Hammerhead existed. Which is only 2 weeks. Yeah, that's not this weekend. It's following weekend. Never heard of it. Basically had no idea what it was. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I still think that everyone knows every sort of branch of wargaming and stuff. Yeah. But that it shows how many, because Colin's quite a young guy, and there is that almost sort of generational divide, where there are things that they're playing that I'm not playing, and that they're aware of. He asked me what games I play, and I started talking about the obvious, sort of lardy stuff, and I mentioned Rangers of Shadow Deep that we just started playing, and he was totally unaware of them. And yet this is a guy running what I still call a wargame show. But I think when you look at the way they described the show, I think they did refer to it as an expo.
Yes.
So I think they are much more leaning towards that side of the hobby, rather than what I shouldn't call it, but I still call it sort of traditional tabletop wargaming that I sort of grew up with. I think they're probably more down the sort of board game RPG like type thing.
But to be honest with you, that's probably where the future is lying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, but I think. I think shows in general, they almost need a particular identity. I mean, we were talking about it on Tuesday. Partisan, you know what you're going to get at Partisan. You're going to get some absolutely spanking, beautiful games. You're probably not going to get a crowd there who are going to want to play participation games. However, you go to exactly the same venue at Hammerhead in a couple of weeks, and it's all participation games. The thing is, there's nothing wrong with either show. They sort of do what what you're getting if you go to those shows. I think the ones that are going to struggle is where they're trying to do everything. So I think if Com wants to make it more of a mini expo, well, go for it. Get an identity for the show, because otherwise it's a little bit. I think some shows are a little bit stuck in the middle.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
It will be. It will be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's only its third year, and of course last year we had awful weather because we were heading towards that second bout of snow, which knocked Hammerhead on the head last year.
Yes, of course. Yes.
The weather was pretty dreadful up at Nottingham when we went up last year as well.
Yeah. So and the first year it was snow, and
there was no heating.
There were problems with heating the first year. The heating broke down the day before. So it was the first 2 years. It was nice to have a venue that was fair. I mean, that was interesting on the way in. The first thing you do is the steward was saying, "Oh, it's in there and the heating's working."
Yeah. Well, because I mean that was a massive plus for me this year, was the fact that people were able to come in through the main entrance, because previous years they had to come in directly into the hall through a door in that big window at the end of the hall. So the door was open all the time, so it was freezing. So yeah, if nothing else, just getting people in the hall was better this year. Yeah,
much better. So interesting show. I think it's definitely got potential. Thank you for that slight digression. But I thought it'd be interesting. Yeah, I thought it was interesting just to kind of talk about the show. But yes, Mr. Hitman arrived loaded for bear, shall we say. With the intention of spending money. So unfortunately, he failed to buy another third of Rome. basically because Warbanner happened to be out of stock.
Oh.
And Sarissa were out of stock of I think it was the Urban Villa that he was after. So he failed on that. So I think he
is Dave doing it sort of one hill at a time?
Something like that. And then he was buying a load of stuff from Iron Gate, a lot of their market stalls and things like that.
Oh,
and then because I was busy filling a basket at Outtro, and we were chatting to Mike and Joe. Well, he just told me that he was going to I think I might pick the rule book up. and then he was looking in the display case, and I happened to pick out the beaver, which it's a lovely figure, and it's quite interesting because Michael's actually painted it with a bright yellow tunic. So it really stands out. He's painted it in a yellow and black colour scheme, and it really stands out. So I go, oh, that's a really nice figure. And before you know it, because they say, oh, you can buy a warband. Basically, you can buy what you like, So he kind of goes, okay, and of course, the figure range is, you get like a mouse or a shrew is like £3, or a mole, £3, Foxes are £5 or £6, but you got loads of different things to buy, and, 5 figures, all you need. So what does he buy? He buys the badger.
Everything.
No, sorry, he buys the beaver, the 3 badgers, and the raven mage. The 5 biggest models in the range, which is why I know that they're now all cast in resin, because as I say, the original 2 badgers and the raven mage, I have them in metal, but now they are in resin because they found a good resin caster, and actually obviously it's cheap. Obviously if nothing else, they're cheaper to ship in resin because in metal, they're a decent lump of metal. They really are, because the badgers are 60-70 mil tall. They're gorgeous. They are really nice. So he's gone and bought the 5 biggest figures. Now I think you can have an all badger warband. However, you won't need more than 3 figures, because they're so expensive, from a warband cost point of view. I thought, just get a couple of little, get a couple of, get a couple of mice and, maybe a fox or an otter or something. No.
What we need really is for Joe and Michael to write a mass battle game, isn't it? Really.
Well, this is it. This is obviously
none of this 5 or 6 figure warband.
No, I mean, yes, we want units of mice, and stuff. Yes, but yeah, so that's what Dave went. So yeah, he was he definitely decided that he was going to be spending some money. He wasn't intending on spending that much with Oathsworn. But he basically blamed the fact that because I was basically going along the racks, going, I'll have one of those and one of these and one of those and one of these. I spent far too long, to the point where he got distracted and went, "Oh, that's nice," and that was it. So it's all my fault. I spent too long looking at the racks and then chatting with Mike and Joe, which gave him enough time to decide that he was going to spend more money than he thought. So crazily enough, he actually ended up spending more money than I did.
He also had a little accident at Crooked Dice. I noticed some of the Crooked Dice vehicles in his bag.
Oh yes, he did. Yes, indeed. Yes, I've forgotten about that. Yes, yes, because he has backed the 7TV Apocalypse Kickstarter to a reasonable level, shall we say? Yes, and so, but the one thing he hadn't done was buy all the vehicles. So yes, he did buy a couple of vehicles from Cookie Dice while he was at it. Yes, he sneaked off to do that while I was chatting with people. Yeah, I do have to say a shout out to loads of people. I mean, hello Jeff, and hello Colin, and Andrew, and James. I met James James Aldrich, who came on the show a few weeks ago. I bumped into James. It was nice to meet him, because I hadn't actually met him in the flesh. That was lovely to meet him, and Sean, and obviously Matt and Debs, and lovely to meet loads of people who just kind of came along, said hi. I had conversations with some. Spent quite a bit of time chatting with Jeff and Colin, since they were next to each other. And again, half the fun of the show is just going along to a show and bumping into people that you meet on the show, on the show tour, and present company included. We had quite a long chat, didn't we?
Yeah.
With yourself and Deb, and spent a bit of money on the stall as well, and as you do. That's half the fun of the shows. It's not. We asked Luffy who was going. He said, "Oh, is it just a shopping trip? Is it?" That's like, and whilst shopping is interesting, and obviously it's a case of, especially if you're buying things like lots of MDF, it's always worth going to a show, because at least you have to pay the postage. For me, more than half the reason to go to a show is for the social side. Is to it's the thing of get the opportunity to meet up with loads of people who otherwise you only ever chat to on email and Twitter. The fact that you can bump into people and get a chance to have a bit more of a conversation. That's the biggest bonus.
Indeed. There we go. So that's Robin.
That's Robin, and that's Robin and what Dave has bought.
Can I just do a quick name drop?
Go on then.
Because I realised listening back to the last show that I mentioned I got given this nice terrain mat at Crusade, and I mentioned I got it from Rich, but I didn't mention Rich's site. So Rich's site is totalscenery.com.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah. Well worth having a look at. His mats are lovely. He does some nice stuff. So if you get a chance, go and have a look at his stuff, because the mat he's given me is gorgeous.
What was that called, Mike?
For any 4x3. It's Total Scenery, all one word, .com.
Cool.
Yes. A very nice bloke.
Excellent stuff. Wow. Crikey. Is that the time?
Unfortunately, yes.
Oh, good grief! It's that Mr. Slade. He's kept us up way past our bedtime again.
No, it's not my fault.
I don't know.
It must have me to start painting. 11:15.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Of course, Because the last time we were up this late together, we ended up playing a game about dog poo.
Yeah. And what a great game it is.
Was it?
I think you won, didn't you?
I think I did.
I think you did, yeah.
What's it called? Don't poo. What's it called? Don't poo on my lawn.
Don't poop on my lawn.
Don't poop on my. Yeah, poop.
It is American.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Don't poop on my
don't
lawn.
Poop on my...
Yes,
Yeah,
with wonderful poop counters, which are yes, they're squishy.
Wrap it up, Bill. Wrap it up.
Anyway, I digress. Yes, so yes, indeed. So yes, has to say, yeah. Matt, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been great to chat and find out.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's been good to talk. Yeah,
and thank you for sharing your thoughts and leading us so wonderfully through Rangers of Shadow Deep. And thank you for your thoughts and expertise on that game. Thank you once again to the Welsh Wizard himself. Thank you for joining me, sir.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for inviting me as ever.
It's been marvellous. Thank you so much. And all that's left to be said is thank you one and all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the show. You found it useful. And until next time, take care. Happy gaming. We'll speak to you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media, and here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.